When I see like the top loading NES, the NES too, like I'm offended when I see someone with one, they're dead to me. You're dead to me. This is the Imperial Schools of Honor podcast. I'm Josh Folan.
And I'm Jay Baxtron.
And we're going to be bullshitting about the formative years of console gaming as we revisit the periodicals that covered it again. We are counting down to 1991 with Dick Clark as we flip through the GamePro issue 14 in this episode. The link to the issues in the show notes, as it always is. Please rate and review the podcast. If you post it, we'll read it here, give us validation and self-worth, or ridicule us as long as it's also funny. What are we jamming on now? Jay, what are you jamming on now to wind down 2022?
Outside of our awesome side quest, where I've been really digging into Dragon Warrior 2, which is awesome. A lot of ESO, as I normally do. But story time. Now go with me for a second. So I've been grinding a lot at this game. You know, I've been playing this game for, I don't know, like 7 years now. So much time. You know, and there's definitely been times where I've just taken time off because I just got bored with it. I've done everything up to that point, whatever, you know, until DLCs come out. And, you know, I'm listening to different podcasts about different RPGs, MMORPGs, things like that. And I'm thinking about Final Fantasy.
There's got to be ESO specific podcasts, is there not?
I haven't listened to those, but I'm so deep into that, like I don't know that I'd listen to one. You know what I mean? Like okay. I'm so deep into it. I'm just like enough. I need some variation.
Okay.
But in listening to these, you know, people are talking about Final Fantasy 14 online as like more popular in in a lot of ways, like more player count and that kind of thing. And considering we've played Final Fantasy,
is that an MMO?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Or I would not have assumed that. Of course, I didn't know it, but I would not have assumed it.
I mean, that's what I mean. Since I never play on my PlayStation, like I didn't really know. And since we had just recently finished our Final Fantasy 1 side quest, you know, and I'm much more interested in that world now. I want to buy the Final Fantasy 1 through 6 pixel remaster collection just so I can play through all those. But because I was interested,
don't play through those. We're gonna play those. Don't play through those. We're gonna play those, or some of them at least. I don't know if we'll get to 6. I mean, 6 is pretty far off.
That's a lot. Yeah,
but two is inevitable. That's SNES. So we'll get to that for sure.
All right, so I won't go there yet. But my point is, like, my interest in the Final Fantasy franchise has just blossomed, you know. And so I boot up the PS4, and I go to the store, and I'm mid-demo. I'm in the middle of downloading the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo. I must have, like, turned it on before the last time I had my PS4 on or something and just turned it off and left. And so I let that finish, and instead of, you know, I'm looking at the store just checking Final Fantasy online, but when the remake finished, this is the Final Fantasy VII Remake, you know, I jumped into that, and that game was so awesome. Like, I'm so hooked already. Like, I can't imagine. Obviously, the graphics are different than what they were when the game came out, but just the fact that all these other things are involved at that time, you know, I obviously did not have a PlayStation, so I never got to play that initially, but my buddy in high school did, and so I was over his house to watch him, and it was fascinating enough, and I was like, man, this is such an interesting game, but like, seeing it and playing it for myself now, like, I might have to buy it. Like, it's so good, man. Have you played that? Did you play it originally?
We talked about it. Yeah, Jab had it on his PlayStation, and I definitely tried somewhat at some point, but I don't. It's too spacey. I hated the PlayStation. We've talked about that ad nauseum in the chat. It was so clunky and just fucking, I don't know. Everything was so boxy, and the controls I mean, I don't know if you remember. PS1 did not have analog sticks. It was so bad.
I did not have a PS1, so
it was a 3D environment with a D-pad. Think about that. Think about how dumb that is. Yeah, it sucks.
Well,
and like a clunky D-pad, no less. You know, so. I did not like the PlayStation at all. I played Resident Evil a little bit because that was just so fucking good. But most of the shit Jab had otherwise on that PS, just could not get into. In Final Fantasy, I mean, being, you know, it's a long ass game. So, and I also just the space sci-fi thing, like mixed with the medieval fan. I'm not really, that doesn't, I don't really vibe too well with that either. So just like the world of it wasn't particularly appealing. And obviously Final Fantasy VII is way further down the line. Like Final Fantasy 1 skews more into the medieval fantasy aspect.
Right.
Less so the space shit, you know. And Final Fantasy VII, like they're way further down that. You know, the skews way the other way, I think. At least in my understanding and my perception. So, you know, that was not particularly appealing to me. But I fully understand the revere that it has, and I do not question that it is probably a good game. It's just I don't think it's my vibe necessarily.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's like the demo was very short, but there's enough there that I was wowed. Like in terms of both the gameplay, like you still have
the remaster's got to just be insane.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. Like I'm sure all of your complaints are all like taken away in this remaster because like clearly like you can even when there's dialogue move the screen around, which is something that hasn't even arrived only the last couple of years. You know what I mean? And so like the graphics
the remaster is not like a pixel remaster.
This is a remake. This is a remake, not a remaster. So they remade it with full like 3D graphics, like everything, like much more like updated abilities to like move your camera angle when you want, and it's just that's what I'm saying. Like it's I can see like the current generation graphic capabilities and all that stuff, plus the Final Fantasy, like your spells, your abilities, like like what's going on there in terms of like, oh, you just got an ally. And so it's different than I thought though. I actually thought that one was turn-based, and clearly I was misremembering. And so it's not really turn-based, but it's kind of like this combination. I can't really explain it, but I like it. You know, there's live combat, but you definitely still have turns, it feels like, because you can't always just use your spells and abilities when you want to, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, it was like the original was kind of Super Mario RPG-ish, was it not? Like that kind of vibe. Like, there's like action components, like you have to like hit a button at a certain time to do a certain thing as effectively as you would want it to be done, but it's not like full on control yourself combat.
Yeah, but this one is like when you're Cloud, you are like, I can stop to use my spells and stop to use my abilities, but I can also just attack, just furiously attack. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like an open world like fighter in that aspect, but at the same time you're able to kind of like not pause the combat, but kind of hit the command list and kind of stop yourself and then use your ability next or spell next. You know, that's what I'm saying. Like it's this hybrid. Like you can play it kind of, you need to play it both ways because you have to get to those commands to obviously do more like you would in a normal Final Fantasy game. But you also have
I would be very curious.
Strike.
Yeah, I would be very curious to hear someone who has played both at length and hear kind of like how different that is from the original. 'Cause I just cannot fathom that the original had like any real live action to it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
who knows? Not my thing.
I'm impressed that like that's what I'm saying. Like I'm impressed at what they did there because it feels like both, and I like it. It took a little while to get used to, but even in that short demo time, which was maybe an hour, you know, like the kids are all sitting lined up watching me, all fascinated, like wow, like this is amazing. Look at Cloud, like this is the introduction of Cloud because they know him from Smash Brothers and all kind of other things. So. So I think I'm gonna have to buy that. I may buy it now because it's on super sale and just like put it on the shelf while I play through the earlier ones. You know, we'll see.
Okay.
But in the world of remakes and remasters, continuing that theme, The Witcher 3. Like we got to go back to it.
They've already redone one of those. Oh my god.
So this is
redone that.
But think about it like this: this is not a remake. This is a remaster. So my previous version, which was a great game, was upgraded to the next gen version for free. No, dude, what? Oh, don't even. We can't even.
We've had this discussion.
Yes, we have. Yeah,
boring button mashing swordplay. It's fucking terrible.
Oh my god.
And a wildly opaque and obtuse crafting system that is not even vaguely enjoyable. It looks beautiful. The story world could have been cool. Who crafts? What do you mean?
I mean,
that's how you
craft the minimal things to like help augment your signs and everything, but you're not crafting like you would in Elder Scrolls or something like in another game. Like if that's what you're expecting, yes, that's not that level of
No, it's there. And what do you mean level? That's the thing. It's too much to figure out. I couldn't figure it out. It was every time I had to do because I think I'm pretty sure that's like a condition-based thing too. I don't know. I just remember the jewels and shit I was putting into swords. I didn't even know what the fuck I was doing. There was no way to figure out. Obviously you can probably Google your ass off, but I don't want to sit and Google while I fucking play a game every 5 seconds. It was constant. It was such a it was a constant need or pressing to do that crafting and upgrading and jewel setting and all that shit, and it's just fuck off, man. Fucking get to the fucking game, man.
I think you're doing something wrong there. Although I will say I will agree on the not understanding which things go where at first, because it took me a while to be like, why won't this one go here? I definitely will agree with you on that one. And I never
was it was the silver for the undead or whatever the fuck it was. And certain jewels. It was it was fucking it was terrible. So opaque. I hated it so much. But the actual action was just hitting the button. All you do is just hit a button. Just hit a button, and then he fucking swings the sword all different ways. It was so fucking...
No. I mean, I will grant you that it is not as variable in some of the combat as later games, yes. But I think for the time and everything else considered, Gwent, all that, things that you don't like, I think are still great. But regardless...
I had Skyrim on that system. All those things were possible that I wanted.
Regardless... I think the game was great. I only stopped it because life got in the way. I think my son was born at the time, and I just kind of
I still got to level 30 or something in the game. I played the shit out of it. It's not like I have this opinion based on because it was the first game. Amy got me the PS3 for something, and that was the first game that she got. So I only had The Witcher 3 for a while, Witcher and Madden, I think, for a long time. So I gave it the old college try and a half, man. It was not I played this game for a few hours, fuck this, and I just didn't know. I didn't get familiar or figure out how to do things. I played the fuck out of that game, and I still at the end of it, I was just I got to level 30 or something. I was just fuck this. This is the same. I've been doing the same thing for 50 hours.
I think so. You probably did a lot of side quests then, huh?
I'm sure,
a lot of Witcher contracts and stuff. See, that's what I did. I didn't do a whole lot of those. I think I got to the point. I put it down when I got to the point where I think I was going to Skellige or whatever, and it said, if you're ready to go to the end game, if you go here, certain quests can't be finished, because you're getting into the end part, spoilers, whatever.
I definitely never presented with that option because I'd have been yes, click yes, let's go. Let's get the fuck out of here.
See, that's what I'm saying. I am not level 30 yet, but I passed that a while ago. So you must have not, but I haven't done a ton of those side quests. That's what I'm doing now. So I put the game aside because I was like, oh, this is in. I want to hold off. I don't want to do it yet. And then for whatever reason,
I remember just kind of recently getting the boat or the little sail thing. And,
really?
Yeah, and I remember, when I was getting that, and something around there is where I was just I remember just it took so long to fucking make the boat go, and I was just oh, fuck this.
Oh my gosh, the boat's so... Oh man. Anyway, in terms of my daughter, that sounds like a skill issue. I'm gonna say it again. But so I put it aside. But the other day, I heard about this next gen upgrade, and I was kind of like, all right, I'll just check it out just because. I wanted to finish the game. I knew I was close anyway because of that last scene that I'd gotten, and I popped it in, man, and oh my gosh, granted, it's been a while since I've played the game, so but I still remember what it looked like, and putting it in now. So much more beautiful. They added some extra stuff, some extra armor and things, which are really just cosmetics based on the show. But that's cool. It's stuff I didn't ask for. I didn't pay for it. They gave me extra stuff. I love extra stuff. Give me free all the time. But that combined with just the much more beautiful, just the scenery, and not just that. Geralt can do more things now. I'm pretty sure I couldn't jump freely before. And climb before and just do things. I'm pretty sure I have more mobility now. So I'm almost certain that they added more there because I can go places I was struggling to get to before. Regardless, because of those changes and just realizing, oh, I'm at the end, but let me just grab a couple of these Witcher contracts just to get myself back into playing before I kind of go and do something difficult. And it's fun. I'm going to be there for a while. I will grant you, like, yeah, I did some...
Wait, so are you telling me that they remastered it and you were able to pick up where you left off, or you had to start over again, right?
No, I'm picking up where I left off, yeah.
So they just remaster the existing game and your saved game you can pick up there?
Yeah. They were just like, I plugged in I put it, and I have the disc. Like, I don't have many discs. I do everything almost digitally now. But so I put my disc in, and it was like, we have a next generation update for free, upgrade for free. Would you like that? I was like, sure. And they just, all of that. So I picked up my, everything. That's why I'm like, shit, let me finish with this beautiful game and, actually go through the finish line here.
Huh. I don't have my PS3 anymore, but actually, I'm selling my PS4 right now. It's literally listed on eBay as we speak with the PSVR and all that shit. I figured now is probably the last opportunity with the PSVR 5 coming out that I'll be able to get any money at all for this thing. That. Yeah, so I fucking dumped it all on there. Like, it's kind of sad to look at, like Skyrim VR, fucking all the shit that's on there. I got a ton of discs for that too. That was probably the last thing that I was buying discs for. Well, I don't know. I got a bunch of physicals, Switch games too. Yeah. Amy likes to buy the actual physicals when she gets gifts.
Nice. Outside of that, Minecraft. Funny enough, like, it started with a Christmas build challenge. So as part of our Christmas this year, we wanted the kids to each plan like a day that they wanted to do family activities. And one of my son's activities was we were going to do a family Minecraft build challenge. Like, we were just going to start a flat world, make it plain, and just like, all right. It was going to be like everybody build something, and then we're going to vote whose we like after like a certain amount of time. And because everybody had so much fun, we were like, we're not going to vote. We're just going to keep playing this game. So now we just continue to build on this because everybody did such different ideas. And so for me, it resulted in me nerding out and building like an underwater lab / livable structure for days. I was just like, what can I do that's different? I'm always building towers and stuff up in the sky and things like that. And I was like, what can I do that's different? And so I was like, let me just go in the water, build a structure, and then see if I can like sponge out all the water and just make it a pure underwater, like, just at first I just wanted to do like a lab and see if it was possible. So I built one room and I was like, this is cool. And then I built onto it. And now I have this like huge and ever expanding place. And I'm like, should I just make like a huge underwater Atlantis type of thing? Like, now I'm just like, so basically I'm nerding out on Minecraft, which is not something I thought I would do. I like it, but it's always a game that I just play with the kids. And now I'm kind of sucked in.
I'm sure that with the whole fucking group of people, family or otherwise, there's probably a lot of fun to be had with that. The level of, I don't know, creativity, customizability, whatever.
Man. I had to upload it to my realm so that I could call Jesse and tell him, because he plays. I was like, hey, jump on this realm and check out my underwater build and add to it. So, yeah, it's fun. It's the classic problem of so many good games. It's like, which one of these do I want to play right now? Like, I could easily jump into Minecraft with the family. I could easily jump back into like Final Fantasy and just ignore everybody. It's just like there's only so little time, only so much time in the day.
Yeah, you're what's the word for that? Attention deficit. It's not. It stresses me out listening to all those. I can't have a million quests going on. I can't be doing a bunch of shit. There's just no way. If I'm playing like a narrative driven game, like that's the narrative driven game I'm playing. I'm not jumping between those.
Well, that's the thing though. Like Minecraft, I'm just building stuff. Like ESO, I'm not playing quests anymore. Like, I'm really just doing PvP stuff, like creating new builds for like player versus player stuff. And like trials, just doing like a trial together with a team on like 2 nights a week, like seeing if we can get you know what I mean? Like, it's very focused, concentrated. So really the only thing I'm doing questing on is like our side quest and then like The Witcher 3, So I agree. I definitely can't do multiple of those at the same time. It's like, which one? Like, when I finished Jedi Fallen Order, I was very excited about that because I was like, all right, that one's done. Moving on. What's next?
Yeah. I've been trying to trying to find a new like big VR narrative driven game. Like I don't have, there's like a bunch of shit I've never finished. I still haven't finished that Area Man Lives. I still haven't finished Green Hell VR, but like I've kind of like they've both kind of petered out on me as far as my enthusiasm for them. So I'm kind of thinking it's just a done thing. So there's something I'm looking for. Something I actually was the Rough Talk guys did Iron Man VR. I didn't realize that was on Quest. I assumed just because it's like a huge. I assumed because it was a big Marvel license that I mean I heard rumblings about it, but I assumed it was just a fucking PC VR thing, or whatever.
What?
Yeah, I didn't assume it would be on Meta or on Quest, and it is, I guess. And they just did a review of it, and it sounds pretty cool. I mean, I don't know, like I know I'm gonna be. It sounds like the mechanic of it is amazing, and I'm sure it would be. For $40 though, the high watermark on there, I'm like, I know, like I know this. I know I'm not gonna be happy with the story. I know I'm not gonna care about it, and so I'm a little apprehensive, and I want to find something more that's more fucking in my medieval fantasy wheelhouse, and there's nothing I've seen recently that's caught my eye, and that's a bummer.
I can understand that. But if you were to step outside of the wheelhouse for a second, just take a step outside. If you ever, so I have it on PS4 VR, and like I can imagine it being even better on the Quest, not being tethered to.
They said. I mean, dude, they said the mechanic of it is fucking great.
So I'll just put it like this: I considered buying that again on the Quest just to play it on that one instead. And I don't do that on games, but I consider that because I'm not like, I'm a huge Marvel comic books fan, but I'm not an Iron Man fan. Like I like Iron Man because of the movies, but I don't care about, he's not my character. But at the same time, like playing as him in that suit and like flying around, like, man, it is so much fun. It's like once you get used to it and like your hands actually have to do that, his motion to like fly, and it's just, it's addicting, and you feel like you're like, holy shit, I'm up in the air and like flying around. And like, I can only imagine, like I said, being untethered and being able to do that. Right. I recommend, like, if you want to try something different, just even if you were a kid, when you're a kid, you ever wanted to be a superhero and fly around, regardless of Iron Man aside, I think you might enjoy it.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, at least if it wasn't $40, or if it was on sale, when I listened to that review, which would have been a very, I mean, I guess it's relatively new, so Marvel's not going to fucking fuck off. They don't care. Yeah. But like if that review would have been coordinated with, I mean, honestly, any kind of a sale, if it would have even been 10% off, probably, it would have been almost impossible probably to not buy it, So I'm hoping that it'll just hit a sale and that'll catalyze me. But even like I said, even that, like that's, and like they said, it's it sounds kind of short too. I mean, they said it's only a few hours. So even if I do get that, I think I'll be back to fucking to the same place pretty soon, as far as the difficulty. Not particularly difficult, not particularly long. They were saying so. Yeah, still looking for something. True. So yeah, I've been fucking playing the new Demio campaign, dropped on the 15th. So I have been playing. They added levels. They changed the UI up entirely. Like the whole menu UI and stuff is redone and much better. So all that's good quality of life improvement stuff too. But the new campaign is on there, of course, as well. And I ended up actually sorting out so that, I mean, I told that story of the beta test thing and not being able to get the beta test, whatever, where they like couldn't figure it out. And I ended up actually sorting it out. The problem was, I think maybe I said I just figured it out right when we were recording. So maybe that I already said that. But I did actually get to play it a little bit before it came out. Unfortunately, like there are other players. They invited obviously a handful of people to participate in that beta test. But I guess it wasn't enough people for the quick match thing to work and actually get paired with people in games. Like I actually asked Amber, I'm like, is that even possible on there? Because like, I mean, it's there as an option to quick play and like get auto matched, but I never got matched with anyone. So I had to do every run solo, and like that was cool. I got to see the barbarian, I got to see the maps. I even made it to the fucking boss one time by myself. I mean, got fucking annihilated immediately, but like I was able to experience it all. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. But without the the whole fun of that is the collaboration and it's not particularly fun game alone. So The preview was cool, but yeah, when it dropped on the 15th and actually got able to get in there, fucking it's so damn good, dude. And the new barbarian character. So it's set. The new thing is it's set in a village, so you're like in this hamlet. I think that's the appropriate term for this. I don't know exactly what the exact definition of a hamlet is, but that's what I want to call it. So you have two. Yeah, the first two floors are this. Yeah, like very old-timey English-looking village, and then the third is this throne room of the Elven King. And like all 5 of the existing campaigns have all been built around this one kind of storyline of the Elven King. Like the very first one, Black Sarcophagus, is the Elven Queen that you're battling. The second one, the Rat King. Like these are all domains under the rule or under the whatever umbrella of this Elven King. So essentially this campaign has wrapped up and concluded this storyline. So the next campaigns or campaign or set of campaigns or however they choose to do it will be like a whole new realm kind of, so that's interesting in of itself that this is kind of like the conclusion of these things I've been playing for the last year. Really cool. But so that's one cool aspect of it. And then the barbarian, the new character, is absolute fucking fire, dude. It's the coolest character, hands down. And yeah, I mean, I'm still every now and like it depends what's going on. Like I'll be the assassin every now and again still, but like Amy and I have been playing the shit out of it. She's had all week off basically. I don't think she'd call it all week off, but she basically had all week off. And so we've been sitting around. We've been like playing like Demio twice a day now. Just awesome. Wow, we played all 5 campaigns this week. So I've went through every one of the campaigns as the barbarian, and it's just there's so many cool features of it, man. Like the biggest thing probably is that his weapon is this hook that you can, it's got a bunch of offensive functions, of course, but you can there's all these like pulling mechanics that you can do. So the lamps can now be pulled and collected, and they become a card in your inventory. So those lamps are everywhere. So any of the boards, even the new one included, of course, but the previous 4, like those things are everywhere. So that it gives you tools all the time. Like, and you get to choose. There's the ice, the water, the fire, and the vortex lamps. You get to choose based on your environment, and it's like a level of strategy that is next level, because even the mechanic of that, you have to wait a turn after you collect it. So like you can't just grab it and throw it. You got to okay, I'm going to collect, like, okay, I wanted to get the ice one now because we're going into this area where it'd be nice to be able to freeze, or do I want a vortex and stack it on lamps that are like, are we going to go into this big area where I'll be able to use a vortex to stack and have that kind of the really chain effect thing that's really cool, where you get a bunch of lamps to blow up because they all get sucked into, and the enemies get sucked in with it. So there's a really cool strategy element with that. And then also you can pick up, you can pull characters, because like the range on it is far as fuck, like 10 or 11 squares. So you are able to pull, like if a character's lagging behind and you want to get them back to the group, you can pull them. You can pull like a set ballista. You can pull that with you. You can move it.
Oh, instead of just having to leave it there?
Right, yeah. You can move the torches in like the Rat King. It's just, there's so much kind of next level strat. It's funny to me that it's like the mindless pit fighting barbarian character, because I think it is the most strategy capable character of the 6, so that's kind of interesting to me and funny. But yeah, it's a lot of really cool shit we can do. And I mean, his, some of the offensive stuff he has is unreal. And to be honest with you, I kind of think he's a little, I think he's OP. I think they're going to rebalance him. I don't think it's good for the game necessarily as far as the competitive aspect of it goes. Like last night, so we were playing the desert one last night, which you still haven't even played that one, have you? I'm like a
desert one?
Yeah. Where they're in the desert village thing. Doesn't matter. We were on the boss, and it has this card of Vergara's, what's the word that Varga's Retribution. So it's this card that it allows you, it's class specific for him, and it allows you to stack attack point, like extra attack power, or extra damage points, I should say. And it's a 0 action card, so it you can just use if you like the problem is you can stack these things. You can get if you collect 4 or 5 of these things in your hand, you can use them all at once, no action points consumed. And so you it's an AoE thing. So you use this card, and what you optimally want to do is have a bunch of enemies that are congregated. Like last night, the guy I was playing with that did this tried to get he threw a vortex slam. He was trying to collect them all together and then throw this on them a bunch of times in a row to stack all this extra. And basically you suck a +2 attack buff out of however many enemies you can get in the AoE. So if you can pack in 6 enemies, you get 12 from the one card play, right? So then that 12 goes above your head, and then you distribute that as you attack enemies above and beyond whatever your base attack, or if you crit, whatever that would be. Say, you hit a enemy with 10 HP and you do your standard base 3 damage, it would pull an extra 7 out of your Varga, assuming you have that collected, and kill him on the one hit, So the problem with that, or the real balancing issue with that is, so this guy last night stacks 50 plus of it right in the boss battle, right? And then we lucked into finding, if you haven't even played this one, this isn't going to mean anything, but there's this particular boss, he's got 2 stages to him, and it's 120 HP or something, and for the first 60 HP, he stays hidden, and he's moving around the room, and you're and this is something I think they need to fix too. I think it sucks that you can find this guy, but you can use your pointer and find him in the dark and find where he is, and then go attack him. He doesn't have an offensive capability at this stage. He's just moving around, but he's there, and the environment is really difficult to deal with. There's these 3 hiders in the middle of the room, and then a shit ton of enemies. So the idea is you're supposed to have to deal with them while you do this little step-by-step thing, this environmental thing, to reveal him, and then you can go attack him. So you can skip that step by just using your pointer and finding him in the dark, and then going and attacking him, and not even dealing with the environment, basically, and going through the process that I think, from a development perspective, they wanted you to have to deal with. So I think they need to fix that, because I think that sucks. But anyways, we find this guy. He happens to be right by where we started, so we just go up there and we just mob him, and trap him in this room so he can't get out, because he has to walk. Literally, he can't teleport or anything unless you really corner him. So we corner him in this room, and we whittle him down to, just from our perception, close to half of his HP, and then we mob him. Normally at the halfway point, he, all the enemies disappear, he moves out to the middle of the room, and he goes into this crazy berserk thing where he's throwing shit down, and, it's, very difficult. He makes clones of himself, and you have to, figure out which one is him, or you're attacking dummies. There's this whole thing, which they fucked that up, too, because you can kind of cheat on that, too. So there's just a whole bunch of shit I think they need to fix with that boss battle to make it as difficult as it should be. But anyways, we just basically skipped that. We cornered him in this room, and he went up to him, and with his 50 extra damage, and I had stacked 22 on, because we were both playing barbarians, so we just killed him basically in one turn with our 70 extra damage points that we'd stacked with this card that you can use. So it's really cool and fucking awesome, especially when it's not feel like you're fucking ruining the game with it. As much fun as it is to just crush something, it's very useful out in the dealing with the enemies and stuff, because you get into those situations where you fucking really want that one enemy dead, because it's gonna fucking fuck with, the turn's about to end and shit's about to go haywire if that thing's still alive, and having a few extra damage to deal out is a really cool tool, but it shouldn't be so easy to stack insane amounts and dump them on one enemy, because that nerfs boss battles, so.
So you think maybe there should be a cap or something on the amount that you can stack?
Yeah, well, that, or maybe I think maybe the simple solution is that it has action to it, so you can't just use 7 of them in one turn. I think it's probably is maybe what I would do. I don't know. That's not my problem, I guess, but I think it sucks the way it is now. But very cool character anyways, and a lot of fun. And the map is, I kind of talked about the way, that's straightforward enough. But there's new enemies. They have this, each one of the campaigns, the last few have had the desert one has these water bottles that they've introduced, and water bottles have I'm sure I talked about this when this dropped, but like the water can like get rid of this like rage shit that's developing all over the place and enemies can use to their advantage. And also like your characters can be turned into this rage state and the water gets rid of that. So there's all these things that this one specific card does to change the gameplay of that particular campaign. In this case, they've introduced this vortex powder that is like a mini 3x3 vortex that also doesn't take an action point. So you can, again, kind of stack these and use these to pull enemies and detonate things and like just interact with the environment, which it balances well because this is a constantly swarming map. Like there are these new, they're called Elven Summoners, and they're like astronomical HP. They teleport around. It's really hard to corner them and kill them between the HP and the moving around thing. But every few turns, they create these portals all over the map that if you don't get rid of, will spawn enemies continuously, you know. So it's like
the classic portal spawn,
right? So yeah, it's like it can if you let that shit get out of hand and don't stay on top of it, you can get absolutely swarmed on these boards. So having something that's 0 action points like that can do a little bit of environmental manipulation and maybe kill a few things is really helpful and works well. The enemies are the portal spawned enemies come out with half HP than if you were to normally encounter them. So they're balancing that. They're making an effort to balance that swarming thing a little bit, and I think it's working well on that front. But yeah, like a real, you know, again, just new mechanics that just change the way you have to interact with the game, the way you have to think about how you're tackling these problem sets, and like that's, you know, a board game like this, that's critical to keep that not monotonous and variable. Because, you know, I did a few things last night in the game we played. I'm leveled, so they added new levels. I'm 68 or something now, like 70, whatever the fuck level I am. I've played an insane amount, and I fucked up a bunch of stuff. Like I fucked up a couple things, you know, that I just don't, even after all this play, I still don't know how exactly certain things work. This one lightning scroll, like I fucking stunned a bunch of friendlies, like party members, because I fucking did something stupid with it, you know. So like it's just that you can play this game that much and still not have everything down is such a credit to the amount of, I don't know, whatever that they've packed into it, the amount of the depth of that they've made it with, you know, and that's really, really cool. So keep bugging you. Got to get in there. Got to get. I cannot believe Jab. He's such a cunt. Jab would love it so much. He's such a dumb cunt. Like I can't believe he's fucking difficult about downloading. Even the Steam version, like I said, I think the idea that playing it without VR, I think, is a huge downgrade. But it's still fun and.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fun game regardless, but I think the VR just adds like
so much to it. Yeah, and dude, I didn't realize it, but I've been playing a lot lately, and I've been playing a lot with people, and you know, you can see the people in the room you're with, and there's a lot of people with the gloves just sit on the edge of the wooden board or the wooden border around the board. People's gloves are just sitting there on the edge now, and like the first few, however many days, more than a week or however, I was playing with people, and I was like, what the fuck? Why? It's weird that people, I don't know, how do you do that? how do you like in between turns? I assumed it was just in between turns, you know, I'm not paying close attention to it. Someone mentioned in a game not too long ago we were playing that's because the VR
players.
Yeah, exactly. VR, their hands don't move, you know, they're doing something on a screen. So that just means they're a Steam player. But that's my point being that I see that a lot. So there's a lot of people playing that way, you know, which, it's surprising to me that, I don't know, I guess, again, it's a testament to the game because that many people are playing it without the VR component. But yeah, I mean, I would much rather play the VR version. It's so much just the idea of spinning it around and being able to, that's so much cooler.
Sometimes you want to zoom in and look like down the corridor like you're in it, you know? Like,
it's just so much more immersive, I think, to play that way.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to get in there. It's more, we got in last night and I was like, I definitely want to play. But then by the time we got home, dude, it was like, I think I texted you at like 9 or something. I think I passed out trying to watch a show at like 9:45. I was so tired. I just knew it. I was like, ugh.
Yeah, we were up. I played that till like 11:30, and then I started mapping for Dragon Warrior 2. Yeah. There'll be the boss battle. I'm of course not going to spoil that, so people can go in there and fucking play it. But the boss battle for that map is fucking awesome, and it's one of those like a bunch of times I've played it and like you're in there and like someone will say like this is the easiest one. Like, dude, this is not the easiest one. This fucking boss. Like if you catch it right, yes, you can really mop his ass up. But if there's a lot of variables, and if those variables don't work in your favor, you can get fucked in this thing. So it's like it's there's a lot of really cool shit that he does, and yeah, it is definitely not easy. Despite when some people are like, I want to fucking slap the shit out of something. Like, shut up! Don't even say that before. Like, what are you talking about? You clearly have not played this enough. If you have not had this boss, if you have not had this battle go haywire on you yet, then you have not played the game enough, because that shit can. He has these like minion things that can just absolutely ruin what you're trying to do. Yeah. So very cool, very fucking awesome game. If you're not fucking playing it, get a fucking Oculus and get Demio. Stop ruining your life. So played a lot of that, and this past week I talked a little bit about in the chat. I think I definitely posted about it, but I finally got the right hair at my ass to overcome the obstacle of learning how the fuck to properly set up RetroArch on my PC and made the emulating jump to it. And well, it's funny, like, when did you get it? How long ago? And you're talking about how you could get the box covers and like,
dude, yeah,
it was like years. It was years ago.
The very first time we started podcasting, I was like, and I was on my Mac, like, oh, look at RetroArch. This thing is amazing.
I have tried to do it briefly. Even that wasn't that long ago. I tried to do it and I couldn't figure out the core shit. I think I talked about this, and it was just whatever, and just fucking ended up deleting it and not getting very far. So I take the time to do the research, and the extent of the obstacle ended up being a 9-minute YouTube video from an account called Shandell Explains. And this dude did a awesome job of going through the process in a no bullshit, no nerd fluff way that had me running immediately. And yeah, the link to that's in the show notes if you want to make the jump yourself and haven't done so to this dude's video. But, it's so pathetic that this like incredibly insignificant impediment has been all that stood between where I was at and this quality of life upgrade. It's like so much fucking better and easier. And, obviously any game you want or any system you want, it's just, the fact that I couldn't figure the cores out is just literally not understanding. Because the RetroArch menu is a lot. So if you don't have someone tell you where things are, you're never going to just, I think, figure it out, So that was a problem. Knowing where things are, and like, I thought I had to install the cores manually and go find them and put them in, and I thought that was all like something I had to do. And the UI,
they're in there. You just search them.
The UI. Well, they're not in there, but the UI can download and properly install them on its own. So yeah, it's fucking, and you have to, the only difficulty is choosing which one you want of a system's emulators, because obviously each of them have different features. So
yeah.
And you can certainly find people who have lists and stuff of which ones to choose. So even that you don't really have to take any leaps of faith. So yeah, so fucking awesome. I basically spent an entire Thursday evening and all of a Friday organizing the box art and such for my different system libraries, and getting and that actually is which is why you see people talking about this, because it's not a perfect thing. And if you already have an existing ROM library, unless you want to go out and download, which you can, entire ROM libraries that are going to be full of shit you don't want taking up space on your computer, you have to go in and make sure the file names of the ROMs perfectly match the file names of the box art. And that is because, most of the ROMs you download, some of them have kind of standardized to this RetroArch naming convention that allows them to match up on their own. But a lot of them don't. So either they won't have, because, every ROM has different territory, like regions that it's was released for or in. So sometimes it's US, and some ROMs will list US as just a U. Someone will do it as USA. So like just little shit like that will fuck up the lining up of the art to the game, and you got to go in and fucking tweak all that yourself. So a little bit of anal retentive organizing work to do with this, but I kind of enjoy that anyway. So, it allowed me to go through and it's so easy and seamless that now, like, I was having trouble with the TurboGrafx 16 emulator. Now, like, that's not a problem at all. So every time going through this issue that we're about to talk about, if we ever get to it, is anytime I see a TurboGrafx 16 game, I can download it and play it in seconds, and also, the RetroArch, like, you don't have to do any controller mapping. It natively understands. I've had to fuck with it a little bit to use the actual controllers. So now when I'm doing the mag, like it kind of changed a little bit of the authenticity thing for me, because now I'm using my Xbox controller for everything, because every system I open up, it just automatically is mapped and I can just use it. And I'd rather be using the NES controller for NES games, like I've been doing, the Genesis controller for Genesis games. I like that, playing it closer to the real experience, and I'll still do that for game episodes, but it's just so much faster and easier to just have my Xbox controller for every time I'm just burning through a few games every few minutes, so it's kind of changed the way I approach that. But other than that, it's just a fantastic upgrade. So the big development out of this, other than just changing the way maybe I do these the ease and convenience with which I tackle this podcast, is it allows me to do good GameCube emulation now. So I have been on a little bit of a kick. Like, I'm going to go back and fuck with all the games. There's Eternal Darkness, this one I loved, my favorite game on my GameCube. I'll go back and play probably that Resident Evil 0, that the second disc was fucked up. I never got to finish that game. So like, I'm gonna play that for sure. But the first thing was Mario Sunshine, which I have not played since I had a game, since I did it for the GameCube. And it's, first of all, we're talking, the GameCube is early 2000s, and it's 64 was 3D too, but this is like the first real 3D system, I think. 64 was barely 3D. So, there's just so much shit that has changed for the better, thank God. The camera is so, every 5 seconds, like every time I turn it on, because I can actually, I've been piping this to the TV, and I'll sit on the couch and play with my Xbox controller, so like I'm playing it like the way I would play, the whole house knows I'm doing this, it's not like I'm tucked in a corner on my laptop. So like, every time I fire it up, Amy's over there talking to Miyagi like, how much is he gonna fucking bitch about the camera now? Like, because it is every 5 seconds you're just like, what the fuck, man? Like, the camera is so clunky and bad, and like it's like it can't even like, if it like, it's stuck on the idea of being a physical object in the space. You know what I mean? So if it like gets stuck up against something, it won't. You just can't.
The wall. Like,
you can't get it out. You have to like literally move your fucking character over to a place where the camera would be able to physically get out and see you again. It sucks so bad, dude. It's so fucking bad, and like it will only spin one way. It's like, it's not. Every time I want a movement, I'm moving it the wrong way. It just sucks. It's so bad. So frustrating, the camera shit. But it's still a super cute game. Super fun game. The mechanic, I don't know if you remember the mechanic of Mario Sunshine, but you got that little water backpack. So like the whole game is kind of about washing this goop off things on this island with these native inhabitants that I think they're going to visit them with Peach or something. And because you show up, some dickheads are pissed off at you and they start fucking the island up trying to get you, so you're kind of indebted to them in some way, shape, or form, and you're trying to fix this problem for them. So they give you this water pack to wash this shit off with. So you're spending the whole thing, like, it's just it's very different than any other Mario, basically, in that you are using this water to do all kinds of things, and like you can use it as a kind of floating jetpack too. It does all these things that aren't normal control mechanics, I think, in Mario games that make it interesting and different and really fun. So
I never heard of this. So this is like, outside of us playing Madden and NBA, like the GameCube was really like the lost generation for me when it comes to Nintendo. So like, I actually bought a couple weeks ago, it was kind of like my Christmas present to myself, I bought the Mario 3D All-Star. So it comes with Mario 64, which I don't think I've fully finished, but I owned it.
Oh,
it comes with that. Mario Sunshine, which I've never played, and Mario Galaxy. And my whole point was like, I've never played those last two, Galaxy and Sunshine. So you talking about that, I'm like, wow, I didn't know it was that. I didn't know it was that different, but I will find out soon.
Yeah, fire it up, dude. And I mean, that's probably, I'm dumb to not be doing that, because I'm sure the quality of life on that has been changed for the better. So it's probably a whole lot less frustrating than playing it on a GameCube emulator too. But yeah, the game is great. It's really super. It's really cute. And there's funny things too. It's got like this. Again, it's just it's such a, between the technology aspect of it, the deficiencies that has, and then just the kind of the aesthetic. There's like this, like I said, early 2000s, and it's got it's got like a news ticker. Like when you're in the main world, like the hub world, it's got this like news ticker thing on it, and it's so funny because it's trying to emulate. I think the idea behind this was it's trying to emulate like popular culture to some degree, or kind of adhere to, or assimilate to, or be part of, or just kind of be with the times, I guess. And that was when that shit was like, that may be amazing for some people to hear who maybe are not as old as us, but news, like not every screen didn't used to have a ticker on the bottom with information that you had to consume while you also watch something. So like this was like that was when that, I mean, the early 2000s is when that was first starting to happen. We were still in stand. I mean, this, I played this on a fucking 25-inch, that CRT that we played on in New York, that a £1 million 25-inch CRT. So like, that did not exist, or it was relatively new, and the idea that they put that in the game with like these dumb updates, while you're playing it's just so dated and funny, it's so funny to me that that's in there. And like, there's a lot, it's just, it is a very, you feel the time specific nature of it while you're playing it, for sure, between, again, the technology and just little things like that. Some of the dialogue too, it's just, it is a very dated game for sure. Because it has, it's like, obviously 8-bit NES Mario is very dated too, but there's only so much of the dating that they can pack into that, like this is a gigabyte. Like, that's the problem with GameCube games, actually downloading them. There's a gigabyte to download. Like, they're fucking CDs. So, the downloading them is fucking, they're space intensive and takes time to download them. So you can't just like, it doesn't just, it's not the kind of system where you're just going to be like, oh, fucking pull this down and play it for 5 seconds. No, fuck that. Like, you're going to make a decision to download this and play it, So, it's big enough to be able to pack more of the footprint of the developer in the game, or the developer's intent. And I think, it goes far beyond even that, again, of the 64. The 64 could barely do that, I think. So, it's just a very, very funny experience. I'm enjoying it, but semi-frustrating and funny too at times. So last thing, if we're ever going to get out of this section, I want to talk about is I got Amy Vermilion for the Oculus for Christmas, and this is a VR painting app that is very
VR painting.
It's like, it's 5 stars. It's just it's there's no question that actual professional artists were consulted to develop this or participated in. It's like a level of perfection of, in a VR space, emulating painting in real life. Like, there's just so much tender loving care clearly shown to make this like real painting without the mess. So yeah, it of course has a cool social multiplayer mode too, where you can paint in the same space, so that was the idea. I got it for her, and then I got it for myself too, so for something for us to do together. And it's just wild how much control you have over what you're doing and how it translates to what goes onto the canvas. Like, you can change how you hold the brush. You can like hold the low trigger and change the way your hand is holding the brush. So there's just every level of manipulation that you could want, and maybe if you're not a painter would even know you wanted, but it's in there, And if you're like pressing the brush, you have the palette, you press the brush, and like how much paint you're getting on the brush is dependent on the way and pressure with which you're pushing the brush into the palette. And then on the canvas itself, I'm sure I'm not using the maybe proper vernacular because I am not a painter by any length, but like the way you push, if you had a brush, like one of those little pointy ones with just, however many bristles would be on a tiny brush like that, 40 bristles, say, 30 bristles, however many it would be. When you push it just a little bit, you would just put a little dot of paint, right? If you were to push it, like, this makes me think of the watercolors. I don't know how many watercolor brushes did you destroy as a kid, where you're just jamming it down the thing, because because when you
learn to have to be careful,
right? Yeah, when you jam it into those things and you're trying to fill it up with that shitty watercolor paint, you're you're smushing the brush out and fucking the brush out, right? So if you were to do that in this, when you put it on the canvas, the way the paint is applied to the canvas acknowledges that pressure. So like the difference between just putting a dot or putting a stroke or just jamming the brush up against it and how that would kind of flare the bristles, and the way that paint will be left on the because it's oil paints, and so it's trying to emulate oil paint physics, I guess. The way that paint will be applied to the canvas is different for every one of those, every minutia step between those two ends of the spectrum.
That's
so
impressive.
it's fucking crazy how much detail they put into it, man. Really wild. Yeah, I mean, if Courtney or any of the kids are into painting, like, I highly, highly, highly recommend. It's only $20 full price. It was on sale. I don't think it's anymore. I think it ended on Christmas, but it was down to $14 a pop. When I was getting it, they had a sale going on, so they probably will do a sale soon. But yeah, really fucking good. And if you like painting, no brainer. They even have a YouTube player in the UI. So if you want to watch Bob Ross episodes, or there's a billion tutorials out there to teach you how to, because there is a little bit of a learning curve to, I don't know how different it is. Maybe, again, I don't know shit about painting, so maybe it's not as much of a learning curve. And if you knew everything about painting, maybe you could just walk in there and intuitively do whatever you wanted. I don't know, but some of the, mixing paints and like there's things that like I feel maybe are slight physics differentials between real life and this VR space that tutorials will take you through and explain, and the layering of the canvases. There's some quality of life things too. You can do overlays, so if you go out and get a picture that you want to paint, you can do this kind of semi-transparent overlay onto the canvas, and you can make that as as opaque as you want, or not opaque, or rather translucent, and change the way that is shown to you, and you want to use that as a guide. And there's like a ruler you can use. There's so many little features to it that it would be best, I think, if you want to get the most out of it, to go through a tutorial sequence that someone's doing and really understand all the features of it. But really, as far as I'm just again, the all-encompassing nature of it providing a true painting experience is really impressive. Really, really, really impressive. So, nice. Okay, enough bullshitting. Let's get to this before 2023. Yeah.
That is the game theme from Ultimate Basketball on the NES, bringing us into this hot GamePro issue.
This is a fucking really hot issue.
There's so much going on, man. There's so many games.
BTW.
So many games.
BTW, yeah, for sure. So it's the September 1990 issue. $3.95 US dollars, $4.95 Canadian dollars, $2.50 UK pounds. If you wanted to score this back in 1990. And rip into these monster hits is the leadoff headline. And this intense 90s aggro shit is captioning an illustration of a livid Tyrannosaurus Rex with both his agape mouth and little baby arms filled with video game controllers and joysticks and peripherals, many of which are swinging from his jaws by their cords. And they bullet point a list of games below that, some actual hits and some not. Mega Man 3, Dick Tracy, Woo! Clax, Afterburner, eSWAT, Cosmo Tank, Slime World. And Lork disciple Tim Brown, who I don't believe is the Heisman winner and Raider great wide receiver, but who knows, had a great point on the Facebook page about they're going with a dinosaur here being so emblematic of being completely out of ideas. Like, can't decide on a cover? Just add dinosaur. Like nothing on this cover has shit to do with dinosaurs.
There's no dinosaur games.
Not dinosaur one in the whole magazine. No, never mind. Yeah, nothing. Not even an ad, nothing, nowhere. There's no dinosaurs anywhere in these 100-some pages. So, just hilarious marketing decision,
Josh, that's marketing 101. Little boys love dinosaurs and trucks. Like, just put one of those on the cover.
And they're right. They're right. Tyrannosaurus Rex. You couldn't. There's nothing you could show me about a Tyrannosaurus Rex that I wouldn't look at for a second. So yeah, I mean they're 100% right. It's just funny to acknowledge the reality of it, or be able to see the reality of it.
Yeah.
They also tease the Pigskin preview as the number 2 bullet, and I am down with Pigskin. It reads fall football action with cyberball, TV sports football, and much more. And I was very much looking forward to finding out what the hell TV sports football would be. I'd never heard of that. The last 2 bullet points are Game Genie, your gameplay will never be the same, and Game Tips by Phone, which of course is 1-900 number prick shit. Moving into the rag, we revisit a couple full pages from that bottomless Taito advertising budget, Dungeon Magic and Target Renegade, before getting to a 2-pager from Data East for a TurboGrafx title called Bloody Woof. And I have to talk about this. It's so damn 80s, 90s, testosterone-y. I can't not do it, even though I know it's TurboGrafx 16, and that's not what we're here for. But yeah, the title is written in a fire-ass font across a giant phallic assault rifle bullet that occupies the top third of both pages. There's large white text on black on the first page. It reads, "They've kidnapped the president. They've taken hostages. There are battalions of them and only one of you. Lock and load!" and then a small blurb of military nonsense below that, which closes out with, "You'd better eat a good breakfast." And it's just, I don't know.
It's so high octane. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I don't know, man. What happened? What happened between 1990 and 2022? Like what, I need an algorithm to break down the math of what happened and like list it out to me in order of importance of what got us from this being something that a company wants to put out into the world
all the time.
Yeah, all the time to 2022, where that's not the case. It's just so interesting to think how far we've come, whatever direction it may be.
So different.
So the TOC and some other advertisements follow that. A couple notables in that fodder I thought worth talking about. There's an Acclaim ad for War on Drugs, Propaganda, Bullshit, Narc. And this ad is dope as fuck. It's all black with a part of the page ripped out, revealing a bunch of cool screenshot imagery. Speaking of 1990 marketing tropes, like the ripped magazine page, with showing what's below it is a very common to see thing. And I would say, and a great ad for a shit game is very emblematic of a company known mostly for their licensing schlock. Great advertising, shitty games. Like good marketing decisions, terrible development decisions. So that's very in line with Acclaim's whole shtick at the time. And there's also a 2-banger from Vic Tokai in here where they're doing that thing where they try to trick you into making it look like an organic mag feature instead of an ad for their shitty games. So
I hate that so much.
I hate it too. And they do it. There's 2 of those in here. That same magic of Scheherazade, whatever company does that, I can't remember, also is later in the issue. So there's that shit, and then we get to our letter from the Game Pros, titled "Why Famous Faces on Your Games?" And this is interesting to me. Usually these are mostly comprised of what's coming in the mag, or they're heaping self-praise unto themselves for some shit they did in it or about it. And this actually goes into a really good explanation, I think, of the inner workings of celebrity endorsements for video games, how the remuneration works, and how the royalties component of that might incentivize said celebrity to really hustle on marketing the game beyond just signing the contract and cashing the checks, And I think that's a really smart and interesting thing that, shows a little bit behind the curtain of what was just starting to become a thing. Like Genesis was just the first one. I mean, Nintendo had Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. They had some licenses on some of those games, but Genesis is the one that's really pushing this as like a
hard.
Yeah, a big part of their marketing campaign for this new system. So very topical of them, I think. And yeah, they mentioned it's mostly sports figures that are getting these licenses, but they also speak in depth to Michael Jackson and how involved and invested in Moonwalker he was, which
we've talked about.
Of course, we talked about it a bunch with the Sega Challenge issues. That's covered pretty heavily in there. Back when that was like the developmental stage of that game, long before it came out, and then of course we did the game episode where this was something we talked about too. So yeah, that was also very interesting to me to see that here, and that they wanted to just pulling the curtain out, showing kids something that they might not have thought about, and just kind of the reality of it, and that's good journalism, which is not always present in video game magazines, particularly at this time.
I agree. Like things like that, that's kind of like one of those behind the curtain things like you didn't know about. Like I was like very excited reading that. Like, oh, I was surprised that they laid it out. Like, yep, some people just sign their name, cash the checks, and that's all it is. And other people were really freaking involved. It's like,
and here's why.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very good. Following that is a new full pager for a video game hardware cleaning kit from one Los Angeles-based Naki Industries. And this is a cool ad that is modeled as a comic strip, which, yes, is way cooler than a fake mag feature like Vic Tokai is doing, and is 100% ripping off the Adventures of GamePro.
Oh, for sure.
Like, down to the art style being very similar, like everything. It's like, so yeah, I almost, this isn't a GamePro issue, so you almost have to think that was by design, and
it had to be because you're reading this. I read this like, all right, like,
oh yeah, for sure.
You see the little print that says advertising, but I fully just read the whole thing. Like, oh, okay,
yeah, So yeah, good advertising. But yeah, this is also very interesting to me. Well, first of all, I mean, what it is, it's a couple. The comic strip. It's a couple kids playing a game. They're about to beat it, and the game goes wonky on screen, like fritzes out. Like when your fucking power button starts blinking on NES for no reason, or your brother jumps on the other side of the room and it. Whatever, So they're blaming this on the game or the system being dirty for all intents and purposes. And then some outfit, the video game antagonist, or the comic strip antagonist, rather, called the Revered Video Game Overseers, is monitoring the situation and sends out one of their agents. I guess that would be it's not the antagonist. It's like it's the good guy mentor character. Is what this stands in as. But they send out one of their agents, the Eliminator, to stuff this thing into their NES and clean it out, this product. And then the kids can then proceed with their video gaming. No mention is made that their progress would have been lost in this situation, and they'd still be pissed as fuck. They act like this just like resets everything. They're fine, which sure. yeah. So this is interesting to me because I had this exact thing, the NES one specifically. Though they offer models for every system on the market at the time. So it's got a pink plastic thing that's modeled off a cartridge of the system with a handle on it. So the idea is that you can stick this into your NES and then pull it back out, and it's like inside this piece of plastic where the ROM board contacts would be was a little rubber strip that would go into the female side of the connection and clean out those contacts in the system. So it's got that to clean the system, and then it also had a bottle of rubbing alcohol and these 3 little pink plastic brushes that you could drop some of the alcohol on and rub the cart contacts to clean with instead of just blowing your spit on them as a manner of cleaning, which is what most kids did. So I have memories of keeping these brushes forever, dude. I remember using them through both my Genesis and N64 phases. I kept this thing for so long or these things, like obviously the NES cleaner got thrown out or whatever when I sold my NES to Game Exchange like a fucking moron. So that part of it obviously became antiquated. But yeah, these cartridge cleaner things, I kept these forever, man, and used them forever. And it was just, seeing this in here was just a really cool nostalgia memory to be jarred by the issue. And it's what keeps me returning to the well and recording this podcast, bro. It was so good. It was such good nostalgia shit, yeah.
Nice,
really
dude.
cool.
I looked at this and I'm like, I don't know if I had this specific thing, but I had something like this. I had
every kid,
of, like,
every kid had some of these.
Clean your NES situation, but I immediately was like, it gave me nostalgia vibes, and I'm like, I don't know if I had this one, but if I didn't have this one, I had something like it. For sure.
And it's I think this is a deep analysis, but deep psychological analysis. But what else does a 7 or 8 year old kid give a fuck about the long-term well-being of? Nothing. Everything is just in the moment, immediacy. I don't give a fuck what happens to this. I'm having fun right now. Yep. Not an NES though.
You better.
This thing was expensive. I had to work hard as fuck to get this into my bedroom. I understand that it is a level of technology I do not fully understand. So I'm going to do everything I can to preserve it and keep it running smoothly, and I'm going to listen to my parents when they tell me to fucking take care of it. Like, this is very important. And, like, the idea of a small child both wanting and keeping this cleaning tool for this very important part of their life is a really, I don't know, something, it's very interesting psychological child psychology thing, that is really fun.
Mom and
cool.
Dad are not buying me a second Nintendo.
If I fuck this up, it's
working, I'm just assed out.
Right. So I'm fucking minding my P's and Q's with this shit for sure. Yeah. Very, very good. The Hudson Soft Zezzies 2-banger gets us from there to the mail, and there's, in line with everything else about this issue, there's some good mail in here. The first one is a 16-year-old in Clarksville, Tennessee, Will Jackson, that's fully abreast of video game hardware releases on the horizon and wants to know whether they're going to publish Game Genie codes in the mag. And this is a really cool idea, and truly something that would give them a competitive advantage over Nintendo Power. Those pricks at Nintendo are not going to acknowledge any unlicensed peripheral, and we'll get to that in more depth later in the feature for the Game Genie. But that would be something that they could do with GamePro here that would, kids would eat that shit up, like having original Game Genie codes, particularly ones that wouldn't be in the thing that came with it. And like Game Genie would go down the line, would release like updates and shit, but again, this is pre-internet. You can't, kids not getting them.
You might not know. Yeah,
you're not even gonna know it exists, let alone actually getting your hands on it. So, that really cool thing that they could have done here. And then the editor just says, like, he doesn't, whatever. They neither confirm or deny codes in the future, but they just say that they're covering the Genie and Cutting Edge in this month. So,
dude, can you imagine if something like that happened now? Like, it would just be like pushed to everybody's Discord.
Oh, immediately.
You know what I mean? You'd have it immediately, and everybody would be like, "Yep."
Except I'm playing fucking Demio before it's out. Like, it's just like I can't even, whatever. Yeah, it's fucking. It's just such a different environment in so many ways.
It's funny though, because like the Game Genie, when I read this, like I could understand, Will's point and wanting to see those codes, and we'll obviously dive more into Game Genie later in this episode. But it almost felt like cheating at the same time. Like when I first heard about it, I was like, that seems like cheating.
Well, that's we'll get into that because they talk about that, and that's one of the that was a really Let's just save it to that section because that was there's a whole part of that feature where I was like, I can't believe they're taking this angle. So that's called a cliffhanger in radio, guys. Stick around till the next segment. We have another snail mail Twitter spat brewing with the second letter from John, whatever the fuck his last name is, in Horsham, PA. And he is planting his political flag on the hot button issue of whether only high scores should be listed in Pro Challenge or players that simply want to be acknowledged for finishing a game should also be included. And just let it be known, he's pro-finished being present, doesn't think that those should be discriminated against. and the editor confirms that the magazine's official position on this matter is they are running in favor of that position. So if you were wondering how things were going to go with the polls in the video game realm here come next November, that's how we're leaning with the GamePro lobbyists, guys. And I know again, like this is all these things are just, we've covered this a million times about these, but these are it's just a tweet. It's now in 2022, this is just a tweet, someone saying what's on their mind, but this was the only way to actually enact that in 1990. But and it's just, there's just no end to the enjoyment of the idea of how much more work it was to express this opinion to any sort of public forum. And right. I just love that people wanted to do it, had the time to do it, had the initiative to do it. It's just fucking incredible. It's just so good, so good.
Can you imagine the feeling seeing your letter like,
oh yeah,
they responded real life. Oh.
Yeah, of course, dude. My letter in Wolverine. I'm 41 years old. I've done better things since then, but nothing ever felt as good as that letter being in Wolverine when I was 11 or 12 years old. Nothing's ever come close to that. Yeah, being acknowledged and heard by something or someone that you revere, you can't, and especially as a child, you can't beat that. Can't beat that. Abraham Marcilla in Bell Gardens, California suggests they implement a rating system for game features, and the editor confirms that will start happening in the next issue, which is cool because I just cooked up this whole, what the fuck is I calling it, power poll.
Yes.
Infographics with the rating systems from each Nintendo Power, so now I'll be able to start doing those for GamePro as well, and
we can
compare. See how the issues stack up against each other as far as quality of contents. And that's something I certainly look forward to in my anal retentive BB stacking ways. Tony Shinobi Grazis in Queens Village, New York, is writing in to bitch about there being a lull in SMS coverage because, sadly, his parents didn't love him enough to upgrade him to a Genesis yet. And
wow.
Right, yeah. The editors don't just come right out and tell him that he's living a peasant life, though. Instead, they justify their lack of Master System coverage by claiming Sega hasn't been putting out shit for it. And they qualify this by saying, but, with the 1990 release of a redesign of the console, the Master System 2, they are trying to prop that release up with some new titles, and that will change here in the mag as well. They will cover those as they are released. So, Tony Shinobi, I hope you were able to find the love you were deprived of as a child in your adult life, and that you're doing okay out there.
And that you get the latest systems when everybody else
that you've got the Genesis. Right? Now you have the Genesis. I hope you have now the Genesis and aren't still stuck in the Master System, bro. So that's it. Yeah, I think, are there even any more, or did we already talk about them all?
That's pretty much all the good stuff, yeah.
Yeah. After that, we have the Hot B Shingen the Ruler ad and a Fire New Bandai ad for their Dragon Spirit port to get us to a rare two-banger iteration of the Cutting Edge Breaking Down Yes, the aforementioned Game Genie from Galoob. And this feature kicks off with a very interesting last-minute layout edition that reads, Newsflash! June 29th, 1990. Louis Galoob Toys, Inc., a South San Francisco-based toy company, today announced it has been enjoined by the U.S. District Court, Northern District of California, from distributing its new Game Genie Game Video Enhancer to its retail buyers pending the trial of Nintendo of America's complaint seeking a permanent injunction. And they go on to explain that this means the Game Genie will not be in stores anytime soon, is their wording, which is intense wording. Yeah. And very prognostic, is that the word? Like, how do they know? Might get thrown out of court tomorrow. How the fuck do they know? But whatever. Either way,
insiders,
I guess, yeah.
Situation.
Perhaps that's perhaps true. Yeah. Either way, Nintendo always trying to suck the fun out of everything.
Dude, I am so fascinated by the Game Genie. Always have been. Like, why was this product allowed to exist at all? Like, that's what I thought as a kid. Like, when I first saw it, I'm like, how is this possible? Like, why is Nintendo allowing it? Clearly here, like, it makes sense now that they were trying to stop it. But I remember when it first came out, I was like, I'd be kind of mad if I made a game and somebody's like, here's how to, like, cheat your game. Like,
I can't believe you have an opinion as a child of that, dude. When I saw that thing, I was just like, give it to me. that's the extent of the, environmental analysis that I did. I was like, what? I need that. Please give it to me.
Dude, I mean, don't get me wrong. I got Game Genie much later and stuff and, tried it out. And I love the usage of it. Like, even before when we've podcasted in the past, from time to time, I'll put in a Game Genie code if there's one just for fun and see, what it'll do. But I definitely had that thought. Like, I fully had that thought as a kid. Like, how, like why and how? I'm just fascinated. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. and how it not only clearly was allowed to be released, but became so popular,
It's, yeah, and the really,
like, how did they come? Like, are these codes? And what I also want to know, are these codes that, like, developers, like, there's no way that one person knew all these developed codes within games unless they're able to, like, hack into them or something. Like, how did
for sure. Yeah, no, of course. No, I guess I've never done any specific research, but I think it's almost, to me, just kind of common. If you have any understanding of programming at all, it's kind of common. You're essentially just changing variables. You're changing. If I wanted to invent a Game Genie code, I think you would just sit down with some understanding of the video game code that you're looking at, and you would just go through and you're just changing numbers. I mean, instead of infinity lives, you're adding X plus 1 and some, and you know what I mean? It's just, it's literally, you're just changing digits in game code. Like that's what those alphanumeric, those 8-digit alphanumerics did. They just changed literal code, or how the code was interpreted, I should say, which is literally, I mean, think about it. Think physically of how it looks. You're taking the game, you stick it in this thing, and then this whole thing goes into the game. So you essentially have an intermediary, and the intermediary is literally just changing switching information that's going from that cartridge into the system. You know, it's literally just swapping shit out for new variables and
just upping the code, adding to the existing code. So I
Right.
can see that. I guess like thinking at it from an engineering perspective now, like I could totally see, like, yeah, it totally makes sense now. But as a kid, it was like, what?
Yeah, well, magic,
this?
sure,
How
yeah,
did you do
yeah,
You know, it's like,
yeah. It's yeah. The thing with me with it is like kids care. Like, did you watch the show Atlanta by chance?
yeah,
Okay.
not the whole thing, but definitely.
I fell off when they added the. It was great. Like the first few, it took me forever to start watching it. The fucking guy at my coffee shop recommended it to me, and like, you know, we've kind of vibed a little bit on movies and stuff. So I was like, all right, and like I'd heard to watch it that it's good, but TV series are very tough to get me on, and like,
Yeah.
I was looking for something. He tipped me over the edge. I started watching. Fucking phenomenal. I loved when they, like, the Duplass brothers have this movie that I love so much that does this so perfectly. Safety Not Guaranteed, where you literally, you take...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, an otherwise normal... Like, there's nothing, you know, the world that the story exists in is totally normal and like ours. But there's just one little thing. It's a little fucking weird, you know, and not possible. But it's sold and portrayed in a way that's totally grounded as if it is part of this otherwise totally normal world. And that's so cool and such good storytelling. And if you can do that well, it's such an interesting thing to just, because, you know, believability to me is crucial for, I struggle with a lot of live action, you know, that's why I can't watch Game of Thrones. Like, fuck off, man. It's like, I don't believe any of this, you know? Like, I struggle with that kind of thing. So if you can sell that to me in a world I can otherwise believe, I can enjoy that, and that's, you know, that's good storytelling to me and something I really value. And yeah, they do that, you know, like I think it's the very first episode where like they're waiting for what's her name to get bailed out or be available to be bailed out or whatever the hell it is, get processed at the jail, and they go get chicken from the fucking chicken joint, and the funny ass dude from fucking Sorry to Bother You, who I didn't even know he was in it until I started watching.
Man.
I was like, if I didn't know he was in it, I'd have fucking watched this a long time ago. He's fucking incredible. But yeah,
That's when I first saw him, like, ever before
yeah.
all those movies. I was like, oh shit, yeah.
Yeah, he's fucking great and so good in the show. But yeah, so they're at the chicken joint, and like they get this chicken. It's like this chicken joint is like, well, you know, incredibly highly revered. And he opens the box to eat it, and it like a gold light shines out of the box onto his face, you know. And it's like they don't acknowledge that. It's just totally
there.
Yeah, it's just there in an otherwise totally normal they're eating situation that, you know, while they're waiting. And it's just like there's like every episode has like a little something like that that's just like a little weird and funny. And so that's done really well. Anyways, my whole fucking point of this being, there's an episode in, I don't know, season 2 or 3 where, and again, it's just out of nowhere. There's no reason for it. It's just a episode that goes back to his childhood, and they do a whole episode on one about him getting this knockoff FUBU shirt and another kid at school having a legit FUBU shirt, and how much shit it creates in his life to have that knockoff bootleg one, you know? And like my whole point with this being, that shit is really important to kids for whatever dumbass reason, you know?
Yeah.
Like whether or not something is legit and licensed and the real thing is really important to kids. And there's a thing about the Game Genie, it's so bootleg. It's so unlicensed. It's so shitty. The book has
The
like
strap,
the book has like the worst looking art on it ever. It looks bootleg. So that was the thing that fascinated me the most about it, or maybe that fascinates me most about me wanting it so bad and it being such a big thing when we were kids, because it was so bootleg, but it was still incredibly desirable. And that is a weird mashup that doesn't really exist with most things from childhood, you know. And I think
you're
that
bootleg, but you're awesome. Give me that awesome, you know.
Right, exactly right. So it's such an interesting thing that is I think a rare bird from that era and us as kids of that era, you know. And that's one of the most fascinating things I think about fucking Game Genie. Anyways, back to the magazine. They have a section in here, and this is the part I was saying was really interesting. They have a section titled "You Can't Always Get What You Want," and it explains that like, the genie is a powerful tool, no question, but not a cure-all for every gaming problem. In fact, we discovered that the genie sometimes causes problems you can't escape. And what in the absolute fuck is this idiot talking about, man? Like, they start citing situations where invincibility put them in no-win states in-game. Like the example they used is Mega Man 2 in Wily's Castle. There's a place where they ran out of crash bombs in a room where crash bombs needed to be used to advance. And because they couldn't die, because they had the invincibility code in, they had to hit reset, basically. And it's like, yeah, like the device is breaking the fucking video game, you moron. Like, of course, you're completely nullifying the developer's intent. Of course shit like that is going to happen. But that is not a criticism, you idiot. Like, don't use that then. If you want to have an otherwise perfect gaming experience, like, that's not the code for you, man. Well,
I think it's more like user beware. Like, put in whatever code you want.
Of course, and
you might screw yourself.
And I bet if we download the fucking book that comes with it in PDF form right now, which I can't believe I haven't done now that I say that out loud, but I bet there's a page in the beginning that says that. Like, use this at your own risk, even from a physical hardware perspective. They're probably like, this shit might break everything. We don't know.
If you land in that pit on the spikes and you can't die, you're just stuck in the pit.
Right, but I'm saying like they probably have a fucking disclaimer that's like, this shit might just break your Nintendo. We don't know.
Sure.
They didn't have to adhere to any licensing, fucking testing, QCing bullshit at all when they were doing this. So, they probably didn't bother with it because that costs money. Just like, does it work?
Wild West.
Fucking send it out into the ecosystem, So, yeah, I don't know. I was sitting there reading this, like, physically angry. Like, fuck you, man. Like, what are you talking about? Like, especially for this. I don't know. It's of course paired with. It's not like this is an entirely biased piece or anything. They talk about its pros as well. But something like this that's so like on the edge of people even being able to understand it, let alone whatever. To go in there and like I guess that's really the problem. That they also didn't understand what they were looking at. This has never been, nothing like this has ever existed. They don't even know how to critique it. You know what I mean? It's so different and so progressively technologically advanced that they literally don't know how to critique it. And I guess that's really what this is, and not necessarily it's not with malice, but it just fucking really grinded my gears, man, reading that section. Like, that's a dumbass criticism. That it's too crazy. You can do too much. The shit you can do is just too crazy. We are not even sure it's good how crazy it is. Like, fuck off, man. Ugh, it's just a tool. Yeah, they used another one they use is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out as their not as a criticism, but they use it as their apex gaming achievement example.
Oh yeah.
And I absolutely love that. Like they talk about the stamina replenishment code allowed them to last a little longer than usual, but that they still end up getting their blocks knocked off by Tyson. I loved reading that. And this made me think they must not know about that 4-3-6-3-3-6-1 timing. And
no.
if you haven't listened to our commemorative 50th episode on that game, I highly recommend going back in the catalog and doing so, because yes, that was me figuring that out and how to beat Tyson for the first time in my life. And yes, they are correct in that being the Apex gaming achievement. And they have another ISOH Game App alum Hall of Fame fodder in here. They mentioned Metal Gear having a code where you can start the game with all weapons and gear right at the beginning, like the entire equipment and weapon screens being full, submenus, and I 100% remember using that and it being I can't explain. Like how earth-shattering a development that being in my life, because I could not. That game was so hard and so opaque and just fucking but so fascinating and so engrossing, and being able to just get all the shit, and not even then I still can't beat the game. It's like that's what I mean. Perfect example. Like even with all that shit, I still have no idea how to beat this game, but I now get to go into it, enjoy it in a way like I'm at the level of someone who could beat the game, and just be able to experience all the different tools that are available in this crazy ass fucking cool game, was such a great, cool possibility to have open up to me as a child, So This thing was fucking awesome. To have any negative criticism of, you're an asshole. You're a total asshole. Yeah.
Yeah. I would put that more in the, hey, just something to be aware of. Like, it should be couched more in that vein and less of like a criticism.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. This thing is great. I mean, like I said, I plan going forward, because I forgot to do it at times, but like every time we play a game, I'm looking to see if there's Game Genie codes.
Yeah.
You know, like I want to see what I can do more with what we're doing here. You know?
Yeah, that's a cool idea. That wouldn't be a bad section to add to the opening thing with the history. You could do that. Add just like Game Genie tweaks that are possible. I would add. I support that addition to the fucking the game apps, dude. Let's do it. So there is a newbie full pager splitting Cutting Edge up that's for their Game Boy Light, and this is significant to me because it's the one Jab had. I sent this in the thread, and he didn't. I don't think he even comprehended that it was his light. But so I can't. The thing about this is, like I said, I remember him having it, but looking at this picture of the kid, there's a lot of things about this picture of the kid using it actually that I think I found amusing, but I can't see a way in that picture that the damn thing would attach itself to the Game Boy casing. You know, it looks like it's just sitting there. You know, there's no side anything.
Yeah.
There's nothing to clamp to the sides, and there's nothing to clamp it to the top. So how's it staying on the fucking Game Boy? And my hypothesis is that photo of the kid playing was fucking lying, and the light had to be like that actual light unit had to be modified to not cover up the cartridge slot, which would of course not be ideal from a product perspective. And that's what I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. It went over the top and kind of stuck on that way, and that's how it clamped to the Game Boy unit.
I was about to say, I feel like that's what happened. Like went into the. This might be one I had. Now this looks kind of familiar. I can't remember now. But that newbie name stuck in my head. So I'm like,
well, they made a lot of Game Boy accessories. Yeah, they made cases and shit too. So that was a popular one that would be tough to avoid the brand name of entirely as a child. But yeah, that's like the light I had, which was not this one. Mine was pretty cool. It was gray. It was bigger, and it slid over the top. And actually, dumb enough, it slid on the sides. The part that held it to the Game Boy was on the sides, but it's still covered at the top because that's where the batteries went on it, you know. But it had like this little arm that you could move that like this like a light on an arm, so you could kind of position it however you wanted, which was really fucking cool. But yeah, that thing had to be taken off entirely to change the cartridge. You couldn't change games with that on the system, so I'm thinking they probably were all like that. Anyways, that's funny. But the other thing funny about that photo, that is one, like 1,000% actually, a photography light being shined on his forehead as a suggestion of light being cast from the Game Boy Light because it's so bright.
Oh, for sure. I'm like, there's no way that light. I was looking at his face like, that's bright AF, dude.
Yeah, like the Game Boy Light, this one specifically, it's like a little tiny light that's on the left side of the thing that like overlays the screen. Like it doesn't even face out towards your face at all, you know? And there's just no way that any light whatsoever could make it onto your face as a kid. No, I mean, if you were in a pitch black room, maybe a little bit of light would illuminate your face, but the way it's portrayed in this photo is just like that it's like a goddamn sun in front of his face, you know? Like it's fucking so funny. Such a bad photography decision, I guess. Or, you know, actually, knowing, again, having been in those situations, what that actually is the fucking brand reps in the room with the photographer. The photographer wants to light it in a normal, sensible way. And the brand rep, the marketing exec that's in the room fucking giving their dumbass, bad, creative fucking recommendations are like, no, we want it to be bright. And he's like, that's not natural, though. And the guy's like, oh, shut up, it's fine. Shut up, it's fine. You know, fucking idiot.
Because otherwise they show them and there's no light. They're like, yeah, you can't see their light. I'm sure they took the shot and they're like, his face is dark. We can't.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work. Right, yeah. Fucking assholes.
Yeah, man, I'm looking at the details, like 3D pics of this newbie light that I found. I think this might be the one I had. Because like this, it looks, because the magnifier, like they're not showing it here, but like there's a magnifier. Oh yeah,
the screen magnifier. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm like, I had the magnifying part as well, and I'm like, this is definitely the one I had. Definitely the one I had. Oh.
Do you remember if you could take games out while I was on the thing?
Pretty sure you had to take it off.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. There is a 2-page spread for the Atari Lynx handheld dropped in between a QuickShot Python joystick ad and the no geographical info and thereby useless Pro Challenge high scores segment. And that extreme close-up shot of the cartridges for the Lynx and that 2-page spread really makes me want to collect them, even though I don't have a Lynx. Yeah. What is wrong with me and my diskette fetish? It's insane.
Dude, there's nothing wrong with that, first of all. Diskets. I saw one in a game I was playing in the last couple of days, and I was like, "Diskets, look at that!" But no, man, I look at this ad, and I was thinking the same thing. Like, it's interesting how the warm and fuzzy feelings are brought on to me by seeing this ad, and I did not own a Lynx. Like, we've talked about this. Like,
just wanting it.
Yeah,
endears and sparks and nostalgia,
right?
Yeah. Dude, you're a grown ass man now. You can make these things happen.
True story.
Yep. Don't. You only live once, and you only live so long. If that's the key to happiness, and you're not going to know till you get there. But it's dumb if you have the means by which to try it and not see if it works. After that, we get 2 awesome full pagers coming at us from Sunsoft, Sunsoft joint rather, for the August release Journey to Silius, and an Enix ad for our current side quest venture, Dragon Warrior 2. Dragon Warrior is just the key art with a few screenshots, a banner in the top right calling it the #1 RPG in Japan, and a coming soon text real big down below. And yeah, they knew that they didn't need to pitch any hardcore woo for this. There's no bullshit like spinning any yarn. They're like, nope, Dragon Warrior 2's here. See ya, fucking Toys R Us. So yeah, I love the confidence there.
Can confirm that strategy is a great strategy.
Right. And the Silius ad is also pretty cool. The game box sitting amidst some urban rubble, rebar and concrete, what have you. The headline reads, "We dare you to make the journey. In the ruins of Silius, intergalactic terrorists are waiting for you." And they have a little mail-in form you can clip to sign up for their free newsletter, the Sunsoft Game Time News. And I'll be right back. I just have to go steal an envelope and a stamp from my parents, and then we can get back to the podcast. We haven't fucked with this yet, this game, and Sunsoft tends to be straight fire on the NES, so I did fire this up. And footnote, this is where I got the retro arch itch. I was going to, this is the first game I'm firing up for the episode, right? So I go to fire it up on Nestopia, and just something, I don't know, man, I don't have an explanation for it. I went to fire it up on Nestopia, like just the standalone Nestopia, and I stopped. I didn't even start playing the game. I opened Nestopia, I started the game, and for some reason, I stopped doing that and just went and got a retro arch. I have no explanation for how that chain of events worked in my mind, but this is when it happened, and that's how it happened. So thanks to Sunsoft and Journey to Silius for improving my life in that way. So I assume you gave this a whirl, yeah?
I did. When I looked at this ad, I like the ad. I like the colors. Like, anytime you give me blue background, stuff like that, it was enough. And again, it's Sunsoft. I was like, let me check it out.
The dystopian look to it.
Like what's happening here?
What I think of, and I have, it's a jump to assume. I look at this and I think to myself, the creatives in the room setting up this little thing are trying to channel the scenes in Terminator 2 where they go back to where the Terminators have won. The Terminators have won. That environment where the Terminators have won is what that is from, to me.
I can see that. I can see that. Yeah, it's this game, it's simple to me. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's also nothing that stands out about it. This game meets the rental standard. Mom rented it for me. I'm playing it. I'm fine with it. I'll play it all the way through, but I probably won't remember it later.
Right. I have no problem with it going back to the store on Monday.
Thanks, Mom. I'm glad you gave me something to play. I'm good.
Yeah. Don't put this on the list for my birthday. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the opening story setup slideshow had both schematics and diskettes, and I almost passed the fuck out during that.
I almost texted you immediately. Like,
yeah, it had my attention from the jump. And, it's Sunsoft, too, so the pixel art, it looks fucking great. The backgrounds on the first stage looked fucking awesome. The music is fantastic. Like, it's Sunsoft, so all those, like, base building blocks for a good game are there, but the game itself is, yes, just a shitty action shooter platformer, and meh, so a little bit of a bummer and kind of surprised, I guess, because Sunsoft has not steered us wrong too many times in the NES era, but this is one that I think fell a little flat, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know. At this point, it's almost like until we get to maybe, I don't know, like honestly, mid-90s, I feel like there should be few gems that kind of jump out. There will always be games that, at least for me personally, there will always be games that I never got to play that was like, oh, I'd never played that one. Let's play that. But there shouldn't be too many surprises. So right now, yeah.
Your expectations are low? Okay.
Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, I'm happy to be surprised.
Yeah. I do. I mean, I have surprises in this issue. Things are coming up that I am fucking fired up about. Like I said, this is a great issue, dude. This, I think, will be the hardest game app chat that we've had in a while, I think. Because I can't even choose between the ones I want. And like maybe they'll be similar or maybe even exactly the same, and our conversation is not between what we both want, but just how we decide between these choices. But yeah, I mean this is a lot of good games in here that
I would be shocked that there's any overlap, though. I would be shocked. Really? Yeah, this is crazy for me. I'm like, I don't even know what to choose. Like anyway, we'll get there. Hot at the Arcades is next, and they're featuring 2 Sega perspective flying shooters that have sit-down cockpit designs that are really decked out from just the cabinet design perspective. There is G-Lock Air Battle, a jet fighter design with hydraulics that are synced with the pitch and roll of movements in-game. And then Galaxy Force is a spaceflight sim that both spins 335 degrees to left and right, like from the top, spins, and then also has a 30-degree tilt of the platform to match the gameplay pitch and roll, So I'm sure both are dope, but I've never seen them in the wild or fucked with them, Yeah, they don't sound familiar to me at all. I looked at these like, I mean, obviously there were these, I love the big games like this, but neither one of these.
Yeah. And the real thing, like these kind of cabinets, I'm sure were expensive as fuck.
Oh,
and would only be in probably more dedicated arcade spaces. Like most of the places that I actually got to play arcade games in as a kid were either bars or fucking, at a pizza joint or Campus Video, the rental place we had, I did not have, we talked about, like, I didn't
Aladdin's Castles.
Right. I didn't get to go to those. So there weren't many chances I would have had to experience the cutting edge cabinets, which would have been in more. Yeah, I question even whether Aladdin's Castle at the fucking Illyria Mall would have had something like this, because it is so, again, those are probably so expensive, and brand new cabinets were probably not something they were looking to invest in. They're trying to find the cheap, like it's a corporation, so they're trying to fucking find the cheapest possible way to populate these spaces and still attract kids.
Well, that's on Sega to freaking sell it. Like, you will make more money from this machine.
Sure. Yet another Game Boy puzzler, Sada's Q-Billion, gets us into this month's installment of Francis Miles' The Adventures of GamePro, featuring SMS joint Psycho Fox. An interesting abnormality here is at the top, they're trying to collect some survey data about this burgeoning IP they have on their hands. And they're asking what aspects of it kids like, what they'd like to see more of, whether a one-off character or continuing story structure is better, etc., etc. So they're doing kind of focus group shit. And they're also asking capitalistic things like, would you pester your parents to buy you comic books or watch a cartoon on TV of this IP? And yeah, that's funny to me that they're just trying to see whether, how's this doing? Can we monetize this a little more, a little better? Yeah, that's funny. You don't see that on every one of these.
It's like they go from wanting to get your feedback to make the mag better to can we make some more money off of you? What else do you like?
Right. It's the natural transition of capitalistic society for sure. In the story, Todd is trying to mansplain the basic mechanics of Psycho Fox to Psycho Fox, while the badass agent the Darkling fuckers dispatched last issue is closing in on them. And it wraps up with Todd and Fox bumping into what I presume is the big baddie in the game, Mad Fox, as our cliffhanger for next month. We have not played Psycho Fox to completion for a game up yet, though, so I'm not sure. ImageSoft's Solstice, that's a really hard word to say, ad is paired with a full pager for GamePro's new 1-900 Racket Next, and it's $1.75 for the first minute, 90 cents each minute thereafter. And they explain it as an automated deal where you punch 4-digit codes into a menu system, and each code listed, and they list them here in the mag, corresponds with a certain publisher's offerings. And, so like, do this for the Acclaim games and hear about all their shitty licensed games. Do this for the LJN games and hear about their shitty licensed games. And, it's like they explain it, or they pitch it as like a mashup of both release news and game hints or whatever, so.
Whatever. Like, the fact that this is such a racket. Such a racket.
Yeah.
Every time I see these, it's just, it just like grosses me out. Like, just, I wonder at what point, like if you did the analytics, like how long people stayed on the phone. Because they start charging you the minute you like, they pick up the phone.
Yeah.
So like, you got to like listen to their menu options. And then I'm assuming, then punch in the code of the thing you want. And then get to the game. Like, I'm sure it's like, you're 3 minutes in, you've already spent $5 before you got anywhere. Like, minimum. Like,
dude.
Gosh.
Well, yeah, this for one, that the minute thereafter is 90 cents. Like, I mean, I know money's different then, and 90 cents. That specificity of 90 cents meant more than it would mean now today between $1 and 90 cents, whatever, sure. But it's still funny to me, an obtuse-ass number. But yes, I mean, I've told the story probably 30 times on this podcast by now. But that whole 1-900 Spider-Man experience for me, like, those were, we probably never spoke about that specifically, but you're talking about the being on the phone and knowing how long and like how much money I've spent, yada, yada, yada. Like, I remember, because those were, I believe, if I recall correctly, those were supposed to be max 3-minute calls, and it was a trivia game. So, like, the more questions you got right, the better the prize that you could win was. So, staying on the phone longer was desirable for what I'm going to win, but staying on the phone longer also means I know I'm going to get my ass whooped harder when this phone bill comes. So, like, I remember being on the phone and clock watching, basically, and like doing that juggle in my head of how much I'm spending on this particular call and how it's going trivia-wise, So, yeah, I mean, for sure, you are, yes. The answer to your question is yes. The kid doing this knows. At least if they're in a family unit that money matters and in turn dad cares, you're for sure watching this as a kid and paying attention. And yeah, that's very funny. And it sucks too, yes, that they put kids in this position, I think.
Are you kidding me? If I had ever had the balls, which I never did clearly, to call a 1-900 number like this, I would have had a stopwatch ready to go. Like, go. Like, that's
I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did have some sort of fucking.
You're watching a clock,
it probably was one of those fucking stopwatches that hangs around your fucking neck with the fucking with the big ass buttons. Yeah, for sure, for fucking sure. That is the eSWAT background music #1 theme from the Genesis iteration. And Pro News is first up here, and it spans 4 pages because they've only given it half of each page, so they can work in a very, very, very cool Splatterhouse ad for TurboGrafx on the bottom half of each page. And it's a bunch of blood splatters on an all-white background for the first 2 panels. And then the latter 2 have Splatterhouse is Coming written in blood next to a TurboGrafx 16 logo. And it's just, one of those, like, we know this is cool. We don't need to give you any bullshit. Just like the Dragon Warrior thing, like, this is, look how awesome this looks. You like blood. You like something Splatterhouse sounds awesome. Just go buy it.
That tells you the confidence they have in that title. Like, they're not even, like, even if I've never heard of it, I'm like, that's a lot of real estate.
Yeah.
What is Splatterhouse, Like, it's funny, too, because looking at this, I at first thought there was something wrong with my magazine. I'm like, is the
right?
Why is Pro News cut off? Is know, because there's not like a border in between the two. It's just like two. It's like the image just jumps in.
Yeah.
So I was confused at first.
And that was. Yeah, that is pinnacle advertising where it's so good that you're interested and you don't even know why yet.
I'm like, flipping the page. What am I looking at?
Yeah. Is reality broke or what is this? Yeah. No. Yeah. It's very, very good. The Pro News contents are conversely very boring. It's mostly just a company-by-company breakdown from their respective CES booths at the June edition in Chicago. And the end does have a short blurb on the Master System redesign release with a picture of it and some titles they've been told by Sega will be available for it in the coming months. And I always hate the redesigns of the 8x8 and 16-bit systems customarily. And I think that holds true here for this one as well. It's like I much prefer the more angular OG
Why did
design.
they do that? Yeah.
Well, because it's cheaper. That's why. It's cheaper and it's new cells. That's why. Yeah. That's why. But
that was always weird to me too. Because when I see this, and sorry to cut you off, but when I see this, I see this Master System 2. This is not the system I remember. It's not the system when I see, even though I did not own one. When I see the original design one, I get nostalgia. I played that one at my cousin's house. I've seen that. You know what I mean?
I never once saw it in the wild, and I still like it more. Right? So it's not nostalgia. It just looks cooler than this. This looks like it's I don't know. It looks like an answering machine or something. It looks like fucking, It looks like a little piece of shit. And that's, dude. When I see like the top loading NES, the NES too, like I'm offended when I see someone with one, they're dead to me. You're dead to me. Like if you have that in your life, if you don't respect yourself enough to get a front-loading NES, then you clearly I shouldn't give you the time of day. You're a fucking idiot. You're a goddamn peasant if you're not gonna get the original NES and you're gonna put that in your life instead. Like that's insane.
Hey,
that's insane.
Lego makes like full versions of the original NES, like full Lego versions, not the top loader. The original, everybody knows the original. It's iconic. NES, of course, it's so fucking whatever revered. I mean, you can there's that toaster one that you can get. There's it literally looks like a toaster, and you put the NES games in a toaster slot. Sure, whatever. That's cool. That's like creative and interesting, whatever. But this, that is just a shitty version of the better thing. It's oh god, I hate that top loading NES so much. And same with the Genesis. I'm not the second Genesis does not fucking I do not get physically negative I don't get physical negative reactions to it like I do that original NES redesign, but I would never when I was thinking about buying one, get the fuck out of here that I'm not getting that original one with the fucking slider on it, the audio slider and shit. No way. No fucking way. After that comes the fall pigskin preview, and that was teased on the cover, and we get 5 pages of gridiron gaming action. And Sega of America's Genesis port of Atari coin-op stud Cyberball, recent ISOH Game Up alum, is first up, and they confirm at the top of the feature that it is, as we speculated, the first football game on the Genesis. So that's interesting. Nice. And there are a number of play calling and player upgrade tips in here that all kind of sound like they're teetering on being cheeses to me, but it still would have been nice clubs to have in the bag, I guess, for the season mode if you were playing it one player. The MSRP on that is $49.95, so they're finally getting pricing info from old Sega HQ. That's interesting and a positive. Next is TurboGrafx' first football title as well, CinemaWare's TV Sports Football. And it's so easy to emulate these now that I tried to give this a whirl, but I couldn't find a ROM that fucking worked. And I wasn't going to scour the interwebs for it, unfortunately. But the graphics, look pretty. It looks good.
It's like a very big zoomed in screenshot that they show, and that kind of worries me that I'm not going to be able to see enough of the action to be able to really know what's going on.
Is it going to follow the ball and I'm going to have to quickly switch to the receiver?
Right, yeah. Like bases loaded too. Like the guy hits the fucking outfield and you're just running around out there hoping you're on the right spot until the fucking camera gets there, kind of that guy. Yeah, they're showing it here, the 2 screenshots they have of it here. The one doesn't even show the second hash mark when they're on the one sideline. So that's a little concerning for the passing game in particular, So Who knows? But the MSRP on this one is $61.99, and yet again, man, like the NEC and their developers just being totally clueless about the pricing expectations in the marketplace at the time. Like there's just no hope for this system, dude. It's like $61.99, like perfect example. Like the first fucking football game on the Genesis, $49.95, and 20% more than 20% more, 25% more to buy the first one on the TurboGrafx 16. Like that's bad math, man. It's
like
bad economics.
Your product has to be like
just
so much,
superior.
Like
even then, man.
Even
then. I think too much of the marketplace is cost conscious. Even if you are technologically superior, which I think it probably was. I mean, maybe not the Genesis, but certainly over the NES, which is the more dominant competitor at the time. Like no question,
but not that much though compared with the price. You know,
I mean, honestly, even over the NES, it is 25% better than the NES. No question. Than any NES. Yeah. I mean, there's just no question that 16-bit stuff is 25% better than anything the NES can offer me, especially in the sports realm. You know, so like I fully believe that you know they might have looked at it from that logical perspective and been like, our product is better. It costs more to develop. The R&D costs are closer to our sell point of sale. That, you know, like all the things check out, but you got to understand the marketplace and know whether or not that's going to work anyway.
Your price lands here, but the market's top is like here.
It's just not going to work out. And they didn't do enough fucking research. Because I'm not, when you're in the problem is it's not looked at that way. You're standing in an aisle at Toys R Us with your dad. You don't get to explain that.
Exactly.
Like the fucking, unless you're going to have someone there, a grown-ass man, explain it to him for me, there's no hope of you winning this argument.
This would work if maybe the demographics of today were back then. Like if people had like the buying, if people like us who are adults have been gaming like we have been,
exactly, and understanding what the fucking product was.
Yeah, and we can look at it and say, yes, I want to play on like I would do now. Like I'm 100% playing my open world games on an Xbox versus playing them on the Switch or whatever. Right. You know what I mean, or something like that. Like we can make that decision. They were expecting that to happen then. The market wasn't there
comprehension.
Yet. Everybody was just
not even necessarily just the knowledge of the product that comes from that experience, but the emotional relatability of it, you know? Like
the connection, all of
it. You're in 1990, your dad is still thinking you need to get your fucking face out of that TV and go play outside so you're not a fucking weirdo.
How dare you? Exactly. Yeah, my mom still makes fun of me, makes fun of us for playing video games when we're together, and I'm like, Mom, you know, I literally like make a living doing this. Like, like, come on.
Yeah. There's no entertainment medium where there is more of a career to be, where a career is more possible than video games. Like video games are doing way better than movies, anything, you know, money wise, because it's it adds more value, you know, obviously. So but that was not the case then for sure.
Ahead of their time.
They did not understand that over at old NEC at all. Accolade's Mike Ditka's Big Play Football is the last big feature in here, and they don't actually mention which system it is at any point in the copy, and that is in its own right a little fishy, I think. It's particularly problematic, though, because if you go back just looking at the history of it, it was released on both DOS and Genesis platforms, and I hope that what they show here is not the Genesis version, because the screenshots look fucking horrendous. And, you know, back then, PC gaming was, like we've talked about this, of course, everyone knows this, but the PC gaming was not up to snuff with console gaming at the time at all. So that would certainly be possible that the DOS version would be way shittier than Genesis version. Whereas today, they'd be comparable or even better. But anyways, the MSRP is a very Genesis-esque $49.95 here, and I feel like, knowing my PC gaming experience at the time, I feel like a $49.95 DOS game would have been insane.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah. So I'm guessing it probably is a Genesis one, which is fucking sad. Either way, it's not out till 91 on either platform, so we thankfully don't have to deal with it now. But yeah, a lot of weird red flags in that piece there. Bad job of, again, it's probably the fucking developer. Like, again, these things. Yeah.
Maybe that's all they had at the time. It's like, you can have this early DOS we got, you know.
Yeah. Well, I just mean the
image.
Yeah, the developer. Yeah, I guess maybe that's kind of the same thing. But yeah, the developers just in so many cases, they're literally just. GamePro is just a vessel in so many cases for the developers speaking. So if it's bad in the magazine, it's probably the developer's fault, not fucking GamePro's. In most cases, I would say. So that's an example of that. I think there's a little box with a few more games at the end. They highlight Joe Montana Football on Genesis. That's not out until January though. And that Bo Jackson baseball football combo cart I mentioned actually is here too for the Game Boy. And all the football side of it was very shitty. The baseball version or baseball game in there was much better. And then NES Collection Football with a whole bunch of shit talking about the incessant delays the release has had is here also. And we've already talked about that extensively, of course. Tecmo's customary full pages are interspersed throughout that feature. Both the Ninja Gaidens are here, Tecmo Wrestling and Tecmo Bowl, and then Bad News Baseball. And there's a banner at the top of the Ninja Gaiden one that I don't recall seeing and made me chuckle that reads, The Epic Ninja Quest. and anyway, they can work more uses of the word ninja in, I'm on board, so that's fun.
Of course. In case you were unsure about the contents of that.
Yeah, if you were at all confused about what Ninja Gaiden might be about with that big-ass ninja on the front, let's hammer it home a little harder. Yeah. The Stimulate Your Mind co-ed with all their cerebral strategy offerings and that stupid Vic Tokai multi-page spread that we talked about before. Incapped with the creepy Game Boy Light ad with the marionette kid not buckled up in the back of a station wagon while their drunk parents speed down the Golden State Thruway at night, carry us into the NES Pro views. And those start with a two-banger on Acclaim's shitty Narc port. Terrible, just terrible. We talked about that. MSRP on that is $44.95, overpriced. I saw it on the cover, but it still kind of felt like I was being blindsided out of fucking nowhere with the next one, which is Capcom's Mega Man 3.
Yeah, I'm like, is this out right now?
You're right. Yeah, I said it out loud. I posted it on the fucking, the fucking Facebook page. Like, holy fucking new Mega Man's coming out. Like fucking holy shit. Yeah, I feel like the cover. I guess really what that says to me, like the cover doesn't do it. Like basically that dinosaur shouldn't have been there. It should have been a fucking Mega Man dude.
Like somebody didn't have the art. Like what I mean? Somebody couldn't draw it, or we're like, we don't have it. This is not right. I don't know what happened. Somebody dropped the ball. Dinosaur.
Yeah. They do qualify that this is only a sneak preview of the game, that it's not out yet, and a full strength pro view is coming next month because this isn't expected to drop until December. The internet claims it did happen in November though, actually. So. It will be live. Well, it still won't be live for the next one, 2 issues from now. They mention the addition of the dog Rush, and they give a quick explanation of the story and include screenshots of all 8 bosses, which is a very smart and good selling point for the game. The MSRP is cited as $54.95, or expected MSRP, I should say. A clear indicator Capcom knows they are bringing the heat with this fucking game. Yes. Charlie T. Asian, the writer of this piece, says, based on the preliminary version we saw, it's safe to say that Capcom has another smash hit on the way. And we know that now, of course, to be true, but I guess it's worth noting that it was glaringly apparent even at a sneak preview prototype stage that would be the case. So.
Yes, sir. An
ad for Game Boy Gargoyle's Quest, more well-regarded Capcom output, gets us to a ProView ad combo from Taxan for Low G-Man. And we hit on this in the last Nintendo Power. Not great, Bob. I did clock in here that anti-gravity power-ups can get you to jumping almost two full screens high. And that sounds cool, and I didn't get far enough to see that, but... yeah, the rest of the game just not good enough to get me there. So what are you going to do? $44.95 is the MSRP on that. And Bandai comes at us next with Dick Tracy. The name's Dick Tracy, to be exact. And this mild-mannered Crime Stopper turned NEC cartridge star via Bandai is up to his fedora in trouble. And that's the opening blurb of this piece. And are they just errantly calling this a TurboGrafx game there? Like, that's kind of what that means, right? NEC, that's got to be. But
yeah,
TurboGrafx does not have a Dick Tracy game, so that's not even a sense of...
somebody messed up. I think they meant turned NES cartridge star.
Yeah.
I think that's what they meant. Definitely just a typo there.
Yeah, spell check on Microsoft Word over there, and fucking on their 1991 PC or 1990 PC is not doing a good job. They kind of nail it in the summation blurb, what this game kind of... the problem, the pros and cons. They sum it up pretty good, I guess. In the final blurb, they say the action aspects are less than optimal, but the kind of what they're trying to accomplish narratively is pretty good, and that's kind of what I've always said about it. It's the action side-scrolling stuff is fucking terrible, but the whole thing of like gathering the clues and like you keep them in this notepad and you have to go back to headquarters and kind of work through the clues and pick out suspects based on the clues you've gathered, you pick the suspect of the different bad characters in the story world to go out and pursue, and each one of them are in a different place that you have to go to. Like, that's really cool game design, I think.
The idea of it is game design,
yeah, but the game sucks.
But you give me some 1900s no thanks.
The IP is bad. Awesome. So every one of these one-page pro views has been paired with a full pager ad from the same company. So I wonder if the pro view of spots are being outright sold to developers, and methinks likely, so like I said.
I was wondering that. I was wondering that when
just
I
literal
saw the
conduit. They're
G-Man.
they're just literal conduits to the developers here, They're totally fucking and it's funny because it only feels grimier because they're separate entities. Like NES and Sega are doing the exact same thing. There's just no intermediary.
We know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole goal is to push all the sales of all of those things.
Right. And but they do a better job of masking it because there's no ad also. Sure. So.
Well, like I said, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see the ratings once those come into, for comparative games that we can.
Yeah, that'll be really cool too. That's a whole other thing too, to be able to just do. We can pick certain games and just show the different percentages, I guess, out of the rating systems. How those compare from Nintendo. Yeah, that's a really cool little analytics thing to play with as well. In line with that speculation, or the aforementioned speculation, is a Bandai ad for Frankenstein on the NES, a shitty action platformer where you boringly control someone other than the Frankenstein monster, which fucking sucks. There is great pixel art on the intro, though, and great illustration work here in the mag for the ad. It amuses me how zen the monster looks on this ad. Like he's abducting a woman, but the expression on his face is like he's fucking meditating or something, and I think that's as he carries her away.
Or asleep. Looks like he could be sleepwalking.
Right, yeah. Like he's not just carrying her away, he's also being confronted by the hero in the game, So he's like, it's just, I don't know.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It doesn't. Well, it does work. It does work if the Frankenstein thinks this guy is a pissant to him, which is probably true. Yeah. Either way, there's something fun happening there. I posted that ad on the socials, and my boy Bung from high school, he chimed in on the Facebook page about how it's a real biatch, I guess, on the collecting front. This particular game, this cart, and it's like I think just a Lucy of it is upwards of $200. He said, just absolutely fuck that,
What? No,
yeah, it's so hilarious how there is just no correlation whatsoever for the collecting marketplace, I guess, between like and actually being a good game and price. There's no correlation. It's all just demand and scarcity that fuel that, even if the game on the cart is just absolute dog shit, and that's certainly the case in this. The idea of paying
I'm not
$200
paying for this at all.
Yeah. I told him, like, I am so glad I don't have that sickness. He sent me also just that he's like, he's hard, dude. He has like. Last time he quoted his count, out of the 700 something titles, he has well over half of them. I think he's in like 400s, 300s or 400s maybe. Wow. Maybe even higher now. I don't know. I can't. I think it's been a while since he gave me a count. But he sent me this stack of games, dude, that was like 15 of them maybe, that he had gotten recently on one particular outing. And there wasn't a single good game in the stack like that you would actually play, But they were, he's collecting all 700 is the goal here, I think. So, it doesn't matter if they're good. He's getting them all, So, it's just hilarious that you could go out, spend a whole day, and God knows how much money he spent. Maybe not a ton. Maybe he got good deals. Either way, more than they're worth. There's no question about that. Like a whole stack of games. And I was like, dude, every one of those games is terrible. He's like, I think Defender of the Crown is okay. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it's mini games and they're terrible. I'm so fucking glad that I don't have that urge to collect the actual games like that. Like a completionist view of collecting games. Because that would be just brutal. So that is it for NES ProView action, and we move into Genesis with Sega of America's eSWAT, City Under Siege, a port of their arcade hit by the same name. And the art behind me is from the title sequence. Very, very cool schematics of the suit that you get in the game. The feature here starts with a really goofy game scenario setup. Two cop buddies joking about the one's mech suit with he's like making RoboCop jabs, in the hypothetical exchange. Mm-hmm. And they mention in here that the first 2 levels are played out without your mech suit, which you apparently earn going into the 3rd of the 8 missions in the game. And I want to like that idea, like the narrative development aspect of that. I like that, but I was very TBD about whether that would be good for gameplay fun factor. Not having the suit. The suit is obviously the cool part of that game. There's no question. I don't need to play it to know that. And I was worried that the start of the game would be shitty as a result, but. The closing blurb leads off with eSWAT is a cut above typical cop in a can, which is a phrasing I'd never heard before. Shoot 'em up adventures. That's a very fun copy and very creative, I think. I don't know if it's actually like they pose that as if it's like vernacular of the gaming community, and I don't know if that's true, but either way it's fun to me. And there is no MSRP for any of these Genesis ProView titles, so we are back to Sega just can't fucking do it as far as that goes, relaying that information, which is bad job. But this game dropped on June 1st, and I didn't have the ROM, and the screenshots looked unfamiliar to me, so I was thinking I had not dabbled yet, and that was fucking true. So I fired it up, and the title sequence is absolute fucking fire. Those mech suit schematic shit on a mainframe. Jesus Christ. And there is, really, really fire 90s Genesis music. You picked the one for the segment break here. The boss battle theme is really fucking dope as well. And I get very hardcore Streets of Rage vibes from that. Like, it's very Streets of Ragey to me.
It's very much.
So yeah, man, the gameplay is fucking fire, I think, dude. Like, this is a really good game. Did you like this game?
So I want to like it, but it's so basic. But I would also say, it has great colors, as you just said. It has that arcade feel. It very much has that arcade feel.
But I think both in controls and aesthetically, it feels
for sure. Like
feels
the way his arm move, and you know what I mean.
It's almost It's like I kind of want to like it's by saying that I equate arcade controls, especially on a side-scrolling action shooter platformer deal. That means clunky to me, But it works well here. Yeah, it works here, and it's fun still. And it's weird to me that I can view that as a negative conceptually, but in application it can be a positive. It's weird. It was interesting to me to have that thought while I was playing the game.
Yeah, I will say I did not play it long enough to get the suit. So
me either.
I was just like,
I played the first stage.
I want to like this, but there's got to be more here for me to like. You know what I mean? So I think with the suit, whatever else comes along with that, I would maybe like it more. It's just it felt basic, from a gameplay perspective.
I mean, there was enough. I mean, it's weird and like it's just the easiest, dumbest fucking comparison to draw. But it felt like the good, as opposed to the shitty NES version, the good arcade version of RoboCop, and like obviously that's an easy fucking parallel to make because of the suit and blah blah. But that's not it. It's like the feel of it is what I fondly remember the arcade iteration of RoboCop having and feeling like, and I loved that fucking game. I've said a million times how I dumped millions of quarters at a bar my mom worked at playing that game. I fucking absolutely loved that RoboCop. And this felt a lot like that to me. And I didn't get the suit either. I played to the first boss. I didn't even beat the first boss. So you play the first boss. It's this helicopter.
Oh yeah, I beat it. Yeah. Beat the first boss.
Oh, did you? Okay, see, I didn't beat it. I died. So the control, like battling that thing that is flying, with like these kind of stiff controls was interesting, but it wasn't bad, and I'm like I said, I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure the fucking suit totally changes the game on what your offensive firepower capability is, So I 100% think there's a game up in here. I would play this in a fucking heartbeat. I think it seems like a very, very, very good game. And I did not expect that. The cover of this and the name, Cops, I could not have walked into it like, no chance this is good.
I almost skipped it. I almost didn't play it. And then I just came back like...
Yeah, I mean, I almost skipped it because I thought I assumed I'd played it and hated it. Like, it seemed like something that had already been out, you know? Because the name is so...
It seems very generic.
Yeah,
like,
right,
cop
exactly.
fight.
Right.
Like, come on.
Yep. Yeah, no, not the case. Very, very, very good. Next, ProView for Genesis is a Bulldog-developed, EA-released Populous for the Genesis, a top-down strategy god game, and that was Bulldog's wheelhouse. Bullfrog, not Bulldog. Bullfrog's wheelhouse, and they have some titles that really hit home for me in the 90s, dude. They had Powermonger on Genesis, which I really liked and owned, and they also made Dungeon Keeper 2 for PC, which was a fucking incredible fucking game that it was all, like I said, god-based, so you're kind of just a hand omnipotently manipulating the environment below you, but you controlled a dungeon full of minions, and it was like a builder, so you like built rooms that were specifically geared towards creating a certain type of minion that had a certain type of offensive capability or function in the ecosystem of your dungeon, and like it was just really cool in tonality. You could like the peasant workers you could slap around. You could slap anyone around actually, and just like if they weren't doing what you wanted, you could take your hand and just slap them, like they would like get their shit together and start doing whatever you wanted to do, you know. So yeah, just a really really cool and funly toned game. I've talked about before. They did a War for the Overworld, I think was the name of it. They did like the developers of it, because EA owns this, so of course it's a dead property and you can't get it from EA. EA's a twat about everything. Right. So the people who created it made like a game in the vein of, just without the actual IP, called War for the Overworld, I think, that I ended up buying. They did a Kickstarter for it or something a few years back, a number of years back now probably. That was really good. Played the shit out of that. So yeah, I really like this company. They were standalone at this time, but EA was releasing their games, and eventually they would absorb them and actually buy the company at one point or another. So very closely aligned, basically EA. So yeah, the Genesis games came on like that EA design box that was very distinct and different than, and the cartridges too, from the other, I guess. I don't know if that was technically licensed or not. I think they were technically unlicensed, but eventually Sega was more accepting of EA than Nintendo would be, even unlicensed deal, so whatever. That's obviously a whole tangent we've talked about before. We don't need to get into now. But anyways, this feature explains this as you're controlling a god capable of terraforming the land to make it either more appealing and habitable for your followers, or less so and more prone to natural disasters that you are capable of unleashing unto them for the people who are not your followers, the heretics. So like this, I think I mentioned when we had a preview of it before, but like this is my kind of game for sure. And I loved EA shit too, so like I don't know why it never really got onto my plate as a kid, but I didn't actually play this much. So even like trying it out here, when I fired it up, like it was experiencing it for kind of the first time, or definitely for the first time. So that was interesting to me. And like I thought like the idea of just terraforming would not be fun. I didn't like the sound of it. I think that maybe was part of it too. Like the idea of you're just like you're actually your core gameplay loop is just raising and lowering land. Like you're not building buildings, you're not building anything. You're just changing the map, which is fucking weird, but it is pretty fucking cool. It's a little bit zen in the way all God games are. Civ for me now, like you're changing like the, so you're trying to make your land like this flat, easily built upon place for your followers, but the way you kind of attack the bad guys, the main thing is like using floods to kill them with, basically. But you got, so, like I guess early on, the easy thing to do, the cheese I was reading, is basically you just raise all your land up high enough so the floods aren't going to affect them, and then lower just raise the water so high that it engulfs and floods the enemies, but your followers are, you know, still safe up above. But I guess later in game, there's reasons why that becomes not possible, you know. So yeah, it was just very interesting and certainly very different than any other God game I ever played. So that was very cool. But unfortunately, which is all the problem with all these games in this era on the Genesis, same thing, same reason Powermonger is so fucked up to play, even though I loved it as a kid. It's because the interface is like pulling fucking teeth, dude. It's it's so bad. Did you try it?
Yes.
Oh, man, God, so bad.
The idea of this, I like it. I love real-time strategy games, sim type of games, you know. And so, like, the idea of this, I'm like, okay, let's see what we're doing. But I was in there, and the interface, like as soon as I looked at the interface, I was just like, oh, what are we doing?
Yeah. Like, you can't you can't even move. It's so bad. Like, even the scrolling, because obviously, how are you going to do it? You only have one directional input, so of course you have to have a cursor controlled. You can't move. Like, they needed to have a button that if you held the button and just hit the directional pad, you could. That would have been the solution, I think, and they did not have that, though. So yeah, so to move, you literally got to move your dumbass cursor off the map and over to these little arrows to move the thing around, and like, it's just so bad, so
couldn't.
bad.
I wanted to like it, but I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm terraforming. I was like, is this all I'm doing? Like, I was just like, no. Like, I like your idea. This is just I can't do this, man.
Yeah, it had me looking into modernizations I can play on my phone or something, you know,
right?
Almost immediately. Like, I want to play the game, but yeah, you can't. There's just you can't. A 2022 player just can't. Yeah. Can't. I would love to know. I would like to talk to someone that can, you know,
right,
that like has so much I don't know, nostalgia, revere, whatever for games like this of this era, and is enough of a purist that actually enjoys playing on these UIs still. You know, I would love to hear the psychology of how they rationalize it to themselves and put up with the pain in the ass nature of it. You know, I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
Not me. The NES ads we have seen before, Data East, Battle Chess, and Milton Bradley's Captain Skyhawk, and Cabal, Cable, whatever it is, get us to Sega of America finally bringing Afterburner over to the Genesis. And this is one of those games that is like synonymous to early Genesis for me, you know. But it was again before my era, so I never really fucked with it on the Genesis. And when we had it, a long time ago, we played the SMS version, and it's one of those instances on there where the 8-bit processor just could not keep up with what the game speed needs to be for this game to be fun, like the flying cockpit perspective flight sims, you know. It just did not work on there at all. So I was excited about this, even though that's not necessarily a genre maybe I'm stoked about. The idea of, again, just playing this kind of, it's like a stalwart Genesis title, early Genesis title that I was excited to fuck with. You have to assume the Genesis could deal with the speed. So I was excited. And a really interesting factoid I actually found about this was this game was released as Afterburner 2, which is what I had. That was the whole thing. I had this in my mind.
Yeah.
Right. I had this in my mind as Afterburner 2, like the sequel to it. And it's actually not that. This is just a remaster of that original with a little bit more content sprinkled on top, is what I read. So pretty interesting there. I love that the copy from Boogeyman in the opening section. You're a carrier-based fighter pilot who takes on a ruthless air armada. Who's the enemy? Who knows, and who cares? if you want a storyline, play, or rather try Phantasy Star 2. The premium here is on reflex and reaction, not problem solving. There's little time to stop and think, and I felt like they were speaking right to the soul of Jay Baxtron, circa 1990.
Right, like, let's go, action.
Yep. Yeah, the criticisms in here are mostly predicated on the lack of variance in gameplay and the environments you traverse. And upon firing it up, I would absolutely agree. Like, it's a massive upgrade, no question, and fun from the SMS version because of the speed. But almost immediately, it felt very repetitive, you know. And I think there's 23 missions. I think it would be a serious struggle to sit down and play 23 missions of this game, you know. So that was kind of a bummer because I was fired up for it. But yeah, I don't think this is something that I would want to.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. Like, the controls feel very loose, you know. I felt like I could, like, there's other games, flying games just like this that we've tried that it's just been like a struggle. Like, what do we do? How do I... Yeah. You know, I was able to kind of jump into that pretty quickly, you know, but... Which
is how it should feel, because the joystick feel should be uninhibited movement for sure. Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's just a lot, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't want to do this continuously
for 23 missions.
Like maybe for a level, like, oh, that was cool, but I don't want to keep doing it and keep doing it.
Yeah. They even mentioned like there's not, the lack of variance in gameplay is not limited to what you see and interact with. It's also even in the way you control. I think the right boogeyman mentions that you're just moving left to right and there's a barrel roll thing too. He's like, that's it. Like there's no, you can't. There's not. You're kind of stuck on the horizon, basically.
You're not really maneuvering and doing a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Which makes sense if you're coming from an arcade mindset. Somebody's going to play for a short time with their quarters and move on. Like it's.
Yep. But on a home console, not so much. A HAL Rollerball ad and one final Genesis Pro view on the amazing Bejeweled. Columns, precede the latest massive Genesis spread from Sega. And it's another Genesis Does What Nintendo Don't campaign installment. Sega bringing the heat with every one of these. They are featuring Afterburner and Super Monaco GP in the ad, and they're puffing their chest out about the raw speed in both of those games' gameplay. They are in-capped in suggesting, or rather their in-cap is suggesting you cop their proprietary arcade stick. And it's only the 3-button one in this case, not the 6-button bad boy I own and love. It's the one Jab had. And they also have the library title page they've been putting at the back end of all these lately, titled Genesis Does It All. And there's a lot of shit in here worth talking about too, in addition to the features. And the feature one is Super Monaco GP. And it hit this month, so it's out now. And it is a sequel to the arcade cabinet version of this game. And this one has they add a Formula One season mode to it that is a whole lot more interesting to me in theory than just the one-off races that I guess the arcade game is. I fired it up, and there's some really great pixel art in the menu system, including a hilariously early 90s bikini-clad girl in one of the shots. It's like this very pixelated, but still trying to be hot. Pixel art, so that's pretty fun and very 1990 in every possible way. But the gameplay UI it's cool. Like your view is from the car seat, so you can see the front end of the car and the front wheels on the road as you turn. So like they do a good job of trying to give you the immersion factor that you would want for a cockpit racer. And it has I also like at the top of the screen, there's a huge screen-wide rear-view mirror, so you can deal with the fuckers trying to overtake you from behind, to add the little bit of strategy that comes with particularly open-wheeled racing, because open-wheeled racing, not that I'm a racing fucking aficionado enthusiast, but open-wheel racing doesn't give you any of that fucking knocking into each other's shit that NASCAR fuckers try, because you'll just die. So it's like a different type of aggression level in this kind of racer, and like, again, like that, just racing in circles, it's so boring for me. I can't even begin to enjoy that. There needs to be some sort of battle dynamic or something, what I was thinking too, this kind of made me this, I always pick, let me ask you, before I even say this, do you do manual or automatic transmission in games like
always
this?
Automatic.
Okay, automatic. Yeah, me too. And I think that might be why they're boring to me, or a big part of why they're boring to me. I think, like, the thought of having to shift, even in real life, is absolutely exhausting to me. Like, I've never learned how to drive a manual. I have no desire to. The idea of giving myself another chore while I do something like driving, I'm already playing with my phone. It's already dangerous enough. I don't need another chore. So yeah, fucking like, I don't want to do that. So. Yeah. In video games, same thing. And like, I'm sure that is a big part of because the whole thing is you're shifting when it hits a certain RPM, and like that's another layer of problem solving and efficiency and skill that will change the way you experience these games. So I almost want to couch my criticism of boredom for this genre with that realization, because I bet it would change it, at least to some degree. But the problem is, yes, you have to have an inclination and an interest, I think, in cars, which I couldn't care less.
See, I think that's the thing, because I always play on automatic as well. But I think it's I know how to drive a stick. You know, I've driven one, and it.
Your Mustang in college was a stick, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's
yeah.
Yeah, it's just a pain. They're just a pain, like especially on hills and stuff. When I was learning, for sure, you're like, oh shit, you know. It just, you know, it. I would agree that it adds more to the experience if you have to do that. But with racing games, like unless I have an actual shift stick or something,
right.
like when I'm playing with a controller, it's just why, you know, like I'm trying to just steer and stay on the road and avoid everybody. Like that's more fun, you know, than anything else. So I don't even think that's the issue. I think looking at this ad, they did a great job though of selling the arcade stick with this having Super Monaco with it, because I look at that and I immediately think, man, if I had the means, like this is the arcade experience for sure. Like give me a Genesis and this stick, and then like I don't even need to go to Aladdin's Castle anymore. Like, I'm at home. No more quarters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, this game, I don't know. Like it's a really slick game. I was having fun until I crashed, pretty much. So I'm somebody who's more into racing games. I've always enjoyed them, and I always play on automatic. Like screw that manual stuff. But even I don't know. I would play it. Like it was something I would come back to. But I just think there's better racers. Like looking at this screen now, like for the time, beautiful game. Looks like an arcade game. Like sure, I will play it, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, not enough.
Yeah, certainly not enough. There's not enough for now.
From a game app perspective, yeah.
Exactly. From a game app, no.
Even with the season mode. Not that I tried that. So again, something else I fucking probably didn't embrace enough to really give it a fair criticism. But
yeah, I didn't do that either. But it's also like when you, I think from the standpoint of look at this magazine, look at all the games in here. Like this is not really where I want to spend my time. Like it's a fun game. I'll come back to it maybe if I want to check it out. But I could also play better racing games and get to these other games instead.
I think this was another one that had. You know, the art, obviously the art of the girls is of course going to get engagement on the social shit. But when I posted this, one of our, I think it's Instagram actually, Karma Jolt, if I'm recalling correctly, one of our Instagram followers mentioned that there's a Easter egg where when you win you can do something where you can win a race, and instead of holding the trophy, you're holding your head, which is a wild ass, like a fucking murdered, decapitated, which pretty. I at least that's how I interpreted what he was saying. So I don't know that that's exactly it, but that was kind of how it portrayed. And I certainly didn't see it or look it up and try it. So fun fact though. So that's in the feature in that list of games from their library. They have Strider in here, and this dropped on September 1st too. So this is now fair game, and I fired it up. I know it's fucking gives you PTSD from the NES version, and I did not enjoy that experience either. It's not like we fought over that getting blessing status, and I'm bringing this to you now in defiance of your insolence while we were doing the game app for that on the NES. But I played the first level of this, dude, and this, holy shit, is this game good. Like, I mentioned when we first saw this, the Genesis version, this one, to my understanding, is revered and considered to be the one that people from the home 8 and 16-bit era home editions say you should play because it, one, both captures the arcade version better, but also does the home console. There's more story and development in those versions than the arcade version very well, too. Dude, yeah, this is fucking great. Like, all that wonky, shitty control stuff that we griped about during the game episode is completely gone in this. It is completely AWOL, not at all a problem. The acrobat, and like, it also does it good. And this is part of the just capturing the arcade thing better, I guess. You know, the whole idea of these characters is they are like acrobatically gifted. You know, they fight with this almost kind of parkour style where like they're rolling and fucking swinging from things. Ninja-like, exactly. And yeah, the acrobatic capabilities of your dude in this version is way better than, I mean, the NES one didn't even have that, I would say. And, you know, understandably so.
You couldn't really do that.
None of that shit. Yeah, in this one, you are swinging from platforms, like the below, like from like when you jump up to a platform, you can grab onto the bottom of it and like flip yourself up, you know, and attack while you're doing that. And you can climb walls and like swing off, like bound off those onto things. It's just the acrobatic feel of it is so much better implemented. So that's really good. It's a completely different game. Like, I'm guessing it's probably a lot closer to what the arcade, like the levels and stuff are. The NES version is completely, like, NES version, it skews in that Metroidvania direction, and I like that. I'm not necessarily a fan of having less of that. I like having to backtrack and collect items and, like, okay, I encounter this new problem. I don't have the solution on me now. What do I have to do, or where do I have to go that I've already been to fix this problem? Like, I love that, And also, kind of worries me that where the fuck is the mainframe going to be in this version? But, despite all that said, the gameplay of it was so fucking fun and so well done that I think even if I didn't play it far enough, I don't think I could even beat the first stage, even though I was enjoying it. So those things may be there. I don't know. I didn't play enough to see. But either way, it looked and felt and sounded so fucking good that I don't think it matters. And I would, again, same thing. I would play this for a game app in a fucking heartbeat. So I don't know.
What?
Do you want to just shut the fucking pod down and start playing this now, or?
I can't even believe what I'm hearing right now, Josh.
Did you try it?
No, I didn't try it.
Oh, fuck. Jesus Christ, Jay. Jesus Christ.
Dude, I looked at it, and I actually went, and I had the ROM ready to, like, download, and I was like, oh, no. Like, I'm not even giving this the time of day. But, like, why would I? Like, this game is
again, especially you, man. Like, this is,
like, absolutely not.
It's the action aspect of it is really good, dude. Really fucking good.
I'm shocked.
It felt so good. The attacking stuff felt so good. And, like, just in that first level, dude, the different enemy variants that were presented, just, again, in the first level, I'm sure that only goes up from there, was incredibly varied, and, like, immediately, like, having to use these acrobatic capabilities to deal with the different enemies in different ways was a present immediately, dude. I could not believe how good it was. I couldn't believe how good it was. It was so good.
I can't even believe.
Yeah.
I can't even believe that we're talking about a game that we have already played.
We haven't played this game. That's the thing.
Already,
that's your problem.
Hold on.
That's your problem. You're equating it to something that has not
an IP of a game that we have played, downvoted, and you're willing to play again. This is just wow.
That's the thing. There is the Venn diagram of these two games has zero overlap.
There's not possible.
Maybe just not possible. Okay, so if you had if you were in Photoshop and you were making the Venn diagram, you can manipulate both the fill color and the border color of a shape you make, right? Maybe the borders overlap, but zero of the fill color of the two circles have any overlap whatsoever. That's how far apart they are. Like, yes, it's the same IP, but that's legitimately the only things they have in common.
Did you go back and double check and play a level of the NES?
No, I remember. We played it a whole game. We played an entire episode.
Wow,
I beat that game. I know exactly what went into it, and no, this is completely different, dude. So fucking good, really good. They are also teasing licensing blockbusters Dick Tracy and Spider-Man at the end of this. They are both 91 releases, though, so not quite out yet. I wonder if the Dick Tracy is better than the NES one as far as the action stuff goes. I'm pretty sure it's more action-oriented and not at all. It doesn't have any of that clue-finding shit, unfortunately, if I recall correctly. So that's kind of a bummer. It'll probably be way more fun in the action component, but still be boring because it doesn't have the cool part anymore. So just can't do it all, I guess, back in 816-bit era. After that is a new full pager for something we don't talk about around these parts no more. A certain dogshit NES peripheral that rhymes with Schmauerdove. The supreme Nazi overlord toy company that distributed that non-working, child-deceiving abomination is offering a $10 mail-in rebate to anyone who purchased it between July 1st and September 30th of this year. And the ad pictures the Schmauerdove actually holding a $10 bill, So when I first saw this, I thought, it's just an advertising ploy to move some more units of this fucking dog shit thing. And it is, of course, that too. But thinking about it a little more, like with most of that transaction window being retroactive, so like this is a September issue. And like, yes, everything moved a little slower, and they probably designed this ad for more than just GamePro, and it probably appeared in places before September, so this is a less applicable in those cases. But the idea that they would pay whatever they paid, and it's Mattel, use our advertising budget too, so you can maybe couch this a little bit with that statement that they have unlimited money essentially to advertise with. But I don't know. You don't put an ad for something in a magazine where, what is that, July, August, 2/3 of it is null and void for the people that are going to be reading this magazine, You don't burn 2/3 of the usage window of an ad if for sole commercial gain purposes, in my mind. At least I want to live in a world where that makes that much sense. Maybe I don't.
Josh.
Yeah, exactly. I want to live in a world that makes that much sense. Maybe I don't. But I want to give them some credit for having a moral gut check moment about the pestilence they had spread on the NES gamer community with this fucking thing, and wanted to try to make it a little more right and give you some money back for the overpriced. Because it's not only shitty, it's also overpriced. Even if it were good, it would be overpriced, So they just,
Early, I take it early results were not as they had hoped.
Right? Well,
To put it lightly.
Yeah, exactly. That's certainly probably more the catalyst, but interesting. At least it's not that 2-page spread, the same one we've been seeing over and over and over again. A couple of SMS Pro views fulfill the promises made in this month's mailbag. US Gold's Paperboy port and the SMS iteration of the aforementioned eSWAT. I love me some Paperboy. And I was excited to see this and how it would stack up to the NES port. So I fired it up, and it is so much better. Did you try this?
This one? No, I did not try this one.
Oh, dude. You don't like the NES one either, though, do you?
No. Like I said, it's one of those IPs I recognize. I'm just not a fan of the game.
Okay. So the NES one is terrible, but I still like it and enjoy playing it for some reason. The controls are bad, and like hitting the mailbox is so hard, even though I played it a billion times. This one, and it's slow too. Like the NES one is like really slow and plodding. And if you played in the arcade, like it's all about like how quickly can I like the levels are timed. And the goal is you get more points the faster you get through them, but you also got to get those papers in the mailboxes. So, that's the push and pull of the gameplay loop. And, getting to it fast, though, is the feel it's supposed to have. So a version that feels faster is a good thing, and the SMS one is that in spades for sure. Whatever. And I don't know what the reason for this could be, because it's the first time I played it, so I shouldn't have been better at it. But
right.
Delivering the papers in the mailboxes or wherever you want to throw them felt easier and more reliable to me than the pattern muscle memory movement or muscle memory experience I have for the NES version 2. So just general control, the bike is better, like just everything about it was superior. And
interesting.
The hitboxes are also more forgiving. Like that's one of the huge issues with the NES version 2 is like you don't even like just going anywhere near one of the fucking things in the NES version, you're fucking wrecked, So this felt more forgiving in that regard, which I think is a better, more conducive to the gameplay. Because it's no fun to wreck every 5 seconds in this game. Like, I don't give a shit how hard you're trying to make it. It's not fun if you're wrecking all the time. The whole goal is to, again, how fast can I get through this? I want to bang the papers in too. I want to break the windows on the fucking non-subscriber houses. I want to get to the obstacle course at the end. Let's fucking go. I don't need to die every 5 seconds, So, yeah, just way fucking better. And, it's funny to me. How many times we've said it. I posted this on the Facebook page too, and like, instantly, I think the way I worded it was just that this port is just way better than the NES port, and like there were all these chime-ins about, like that's how they all are. Like everything is better on the SMS. The SMS is better, which I've been saying, since we started dicking around with it. It's just they just didn't have the library in the games to keep up with the NES, or the marketing dollars. So. This game is a testament and an embodiment of that dynamic,
That's an embodiment of freaking marketing, man. Because I would, my gut reaction is to just at this point like, it's an SMS game. Like I'm not even looking at it. Like, give me Nintendo or forward. You know what I mean? So
yeah, like I said, one of my big goals of this podcast was to get because I had zero exposure to it. So one of my big goals with this podcast is to explore that library to the fullest. And like I've said before, how I kind of, we were kind of, which they've talked about in this issue, how we're kind of exiting that era. And I've also said before that I don't feel like there's been enough coverage in these magazines of the full library for me to have gotten as big of an understanding and experience of that library as I hoped to going into it. I feel like they're just, Sega's just such a bad job of covering it, both from their internal magazine and then GamePro coming on the scene is kind of just as it's exiting. So I just don't feel like I got as much of exposure to that as I want, So the idea that it's kind of petering back in a little bit because of that re-release of the redesign, or rather the release of the redesign, is kind of exciting to me, actually. So I was with bells on checking each one of these out. This is the first time, a first for this. I went on to the Shit Worth Playing list for this, and I replaced the NES version with this version, the SMS version, and that of Paperboy. And that is a first. That the idea of taking something off and replacing it with a different version of it.
That's notable.
Yeah,
that's notable.
Yep. Yeah, that's groundbreaking shit here for the pod. The other one here is eSWAT, the SMS version, and this game is fucking unplayable.
Completely different there.
Yeah. It's my summation is the NES's Kung Fu, but with a gun. It's got that the really, really repetitive and boring side-scrolling single-plane beat-em up where you were just incessantly swarmed from both sides by the same enemy. And they're all single hit kills. That's exactly how it feels, And yeah, I think this should have been Sega's go-to sales tool for getting existing SMS owners to upgrade to the Genesis. Like if you set up both systems side by side in stores, and again, you were just talking about being in the aisle with the dad. If they had this next to that dad, and the kid could go look. You'd have let the store with the fucking Genesis. Like even penny pitching parents would have been like, yeah, we got to get you a Genesis. We can't have you living like a fucking peasant. Like I see the value here, Like yeah, if you put both these games side by side, it's just night and fucking day.
Like they're not even the same game. Like it's just playable.
Yeah, so different. So yeah, terrible. No MSRPs for either of these, of course, because fucking eye roll emoji from Sega. And we have ads for the Game Boy Batman and NES Shit Eaters Michael Andretti's World GP and Nightmare on Elm Street to round this stretch out. After these messages,
we'll be right back.
In the Dick Tracy game for your Nintendo Entertainment System, Tracy wants to put Al Big Boy Caprice behind bars. And the only way he can do it is by arresting Big Boy's gang one at a time. Then Itchy, Flat Top, and all the rest will turn state's evidence, and it'll be so long, Big Boy. But can Tracy avoid Big Boy's muscle, his snipers, his triggermen? Will he get the clues he needs, or will he just get it? Find out next time. From Bandai.
That was a 1990 U.S. market commercial for Dick Tracy on the NES. And that's all I have to say about that. A couple TurboGrafx joints. Their Claxport and Super Volleyball lead us off here. These are separated by a full pager for another one of Hudson Soft's terrible arcade ports of an archaic flying sci-fi shooter, Starship Hector, that dropped in June. Hard pass. Wanted to try the Claxport, but could only find the Japanese version of this, and I couldn't fucking figure it out.
Same thing. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, they didn't really look markedly better than the NES one, to my surprise. Even what I was able to see, gameplay though can't speak to. MSRPs are $39.95 for Clax and $48.99 for Volleyball, so these are more reasonably priced than a lot of TurboGrafx games, but that's because they're way lesser games. And again, not knowing the fucking marketplace, these dudes. All that is just meaningless nonsense in the way of what gets us, or rather gets asses in seats for this pod, though, as we next up have Jay's Atari Corner, featuring Planet Smashers for the Atari 7800. Well, Jay, don't keep us waiting with bated breath any longer. Dude. Tell us about Planet Smashers.
I never actually played this game growing up. I definitely would have played it. Are you kidding me? As a kid, I would have absolutely loved this. Like, I love the opening paragraph here, too. Like, I've wondered this myself. I'm going to read it here. It says, it has become the burning question surrounding alien life in the video dimension. Countless galaxies filled with unclaimed planets exist in the universe, and yet they always insist upon having ours. Who are they? like the aliens. Like, it's Earth that they want. Like, they always want Earth. Like, why? You know what I mean? Like, why are they always after us?
Yeah.
So, like,
it's hard to argue that we even want it. What do you want it for?
Yeah, but I mean, this is a, you know, when I think of, I'm bummed that I could not find a ROM. I'm very bummed.
Really?
I cannot get a working ROM for this. I am so bummed. I looked and I could not find one. But when I look at the screenshots and when I look at like what I could find of it, like, yeah, I would have 100% played it as a kid. But at the same time, you know, I'm not that sad, because when I think of flying games on the Atari, I think Asteroids, I think Space Invaders, I think, you know, there are games that you could give me. I think of Xevious, I think of certain Gradius, I think of games. I've never even heard of this. So
looks like there's a lot of shit going on at the bottom of the screen in the HUD there. A lot more. It implies more
complexity.
Yeah, complexity. That would be the
yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I would have definitely given it a go, and I'm bummed I couldn't find it. But at the same time, the fact that I've never even heard of it right now, it's like either came on so late in the Atari generation, which clearly at this time extremely late. You know, I'm not even thinking about it. But I also still had an Atari at this time too, so you know,
yeah, not enough standing in the Toys R Us aisle, I guess, to remember it.
And I've played a shit ton of Atari games. Many weekends, like walking through, walking through a flea market or a thrift store or something, like. You can find some freaking Atari games for like $1.
I've never asked you. I can't believe I've never asked you this. Did they have like a rental store presence at all for Atari 7800? Do you remember renting games for the Atari?
I think, thinking back, there may have been a couple Atari 7800 rentals, like a few, like at the very beginning. Okay. You know, but they were like the most popular games, like your Double Dragon, you know what I mean, or something like, and Pitfall, something like that. Something super popular.
I have, and like I feel like even though I didn't have a 7800, I did have that long 2600 phase where the Atari brand of anything would have at least, my little idiot child mind would have at least acknowledged it, and I would have some memory. And I have, like, I can't think of anything ever seen in any of the rental stores, anything for Atari. So
I feel like when at the time of life when we started actually going to rental stores, that was when I had a Nintendo. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I recall. I recall actually having a VCR. I mean, we had a VCR longer, so I guess that's not the case. But like at the time when we were going to rental stores regularly, I had a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo at that point.
Dude, so I can remember. You know what I mean? I don't know if I ever thought about it. I can remember at least I think, I guess there's no way to know for sure, but I'm pretty sure I can remember the very first time I ever went to a rental.
Really?
And it was, before video games were I don't remember anything video game about it. I just remember how it was not that one in Oberlin. We went to one in, what was that? I think that was at the Elyria Mall, actually. I think that was in the parking lot on like the northwest side of Elyria Mall. I can't remember. My dentist was right there. There was one of those fucking, what were those? The photomat huts that they put in parking lot. Do you remember those? They might have been called photomat. I don't know. But there was like a yellow and blue hut. I remember in the parking lot. There was one of those there. But anyways, it was there, and I remember I had never heard of a beta thing, a beta VCR. Like we had a VHS.
Yeah, same.
I wish I could remember the brand. This big silver monstrosity. I remember, and I remember seeing the two different types of tapes and how different they looked size wise on the fucking shelves, and just being like, "What the fuck is that? Why are there two of them? Who has two? Like, why do they need two of these things?" Like, I just remember being like completely fucking floored that that everyone wasn't rocking the same shit. Like I just said, I remember that so vividly in that store, how there were two of everything. I was just like, why? What the fuck do they need two of them for? What do you mean?
I don't know if I've ever seen a beta. That's crazy to me.
Really? Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, back then.
I've heard the name, like I know that, but like I can't even picture it in my mind. Like,
dude, they were like, they sat side by side in the shelves, like the fucking cases, those big heavy duty book type cases that you open, and like the beta ones were smaller. Yeah, I remember that so clearly.
Yeah, I just remember like tangent, like going to video game stores, or not video game stores, but rental stores, and looking at basically the percentage of video space allocated to video game rentals versus like movie rentals, and how that would increase over time, and like my opinion of said video rental store, whether it be like a mom and pop one, like a Rent-A-Flick that was near me, or like a Blockbuster, would change if that percentage was higher. Like if you were like 2% video games, like whack, like you only had a couple selections, nothing. Okay. But if you had like Nintendo and Super Nintendo and Genesis, you know what I mean, and you had like 25% of your store of like was video games, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like the holy grail.
That's such another testament to like just infinitely superior awareness to me as a child. Like I can't even imagine like being able to like perceive that or think about it, like
really
just, where are the video games? Let me get a game. I got enough to deal with here. I'm not thinking about the macro of store shelf allocation being whatever. None of that's fucking. I do remember that always being like the video game section was always felt like the one store I can remember, they were in like a closet. Like it was almost like a porn section. and then I remember it being in this like small little room that was like off the main floor where all the video game or all the VHS tapes were, the one in what that South Amherst that would have been, that Jab always used to go to, Rainbow Video, I think it might have been called. Yeah, it was in the one room. Like I said, a closet. And even at the Campus Video one, it was like upstairs on this elevated platform. Like all the video games were there on the shelves, and then that's where the narc cabinet was that we've talked about, Jeb and I have talked about, and there was probably some other dumb shit there. The packs of like essentially the kid section is what it was. It was like a totally. Almost like a fucking like a playroom, and
send the kids up there to look at video games
while we go look for R-rated videos. Exactly. So yeah, it was. I remember it being distinctly partitioned off in most cases, but I can't. Again, Blockbuster was never even an option. Like I was out of renting shit entirely by the time Blockbuster was even a thing, and we didn't have one in town. I'm sure there were Blockbusters around, but we would by that time, if we were going to rent something, it was from the one in town that was like a mom and pop deal, So I didn't have any Blockbuster exposure. From there, we have a full pager with some really cool art, despite the game it's for being some total FCI dogshit, Dr. Chaos, and then some pro views for Nintendo and Atari's handhelds and accompanying advertising. We have Penguin Wars, some fucking word I can't begin to pronounce, Alien, Cosmo Tank on the Game Boy, and then Todd's Adventures in Slime World on the Lynx. Todd. Then ads for more NES shit we've seen. Pinball Quest from Jalico. Awesome art for this too. I had that as a background in the, I think, second segment. Asmix Top Player Tennis we've seen a million times. Culture Brains Baseball Simulator 1000 and The Magic of Scheherazade. And that is before we get to SWAT Hot Tips. And there was a TurboGrafx game, Newtopia, in here with a couple submissions on the first page that I hadn't seen, and the screenshot for it was an item select screen that looked very RPG-y. So I nabbed the ROM for this and checked it out. Had some really dope-ass dragon breathing fire down onto an armored knight as the cover art, and that's a good indicator that I was right. And, dude, this is Zelda. This is a Zelda knockoff and a half, man. It is...
Really?
It looks like the SNES one more than the NES one. So again, it's 16-bit, even though TurboGrafx is a little bit or rather a little bit more mid than an SNES or Genesis as far as 16-bit goes, usually, anyways. Yeah. And I only played it for a few minutes, but there was groundwork there that made it very, very interesting. And I bet TurboGrafx 16 kids played the fuck out of this game, jammed on it to no end, dude. Because it was, dude, everything, like the way. All the same items, like the potions and shit. There's like a room you go into to get your sword in the beginning. It's very Zelda-y. And like even when he would pick up an item, he'd do the thing above his head.
Really?
It was unabashedly Zelda, but well done. Not like in a janky ass.
Not just cheesy and
yeah. It's same mechanics, same vibes, same graphics in a lot of ways, but good, just not Zelda. So yeah, and again, posting it people, the TurboGrafx 16 heads were fucking like, yeah, that's fucking for sure a good game. So pretty cool that existed. Doug in Orville, California, sent in the password for the last level in Lolo 2, and I'm kind of inclined to punch it in because I don't know if I'll ever actually play all the way to the end of that game, despite how great it is. In fact, I know I won't now because my old emulator, the save state was on, is bricked, and I got the new emulator, so I highly doubt that I'll restart that game from the beginning and go through it again. So maybe I'll try this code just to get a little taste.
That's
of
cheating. Don't do it.
There's only so much time before I die, Jay.
That's true.
Did you see the Space Harrier 99 Lives one? Space Harrier 2?
I saw it, yeah, but I didn't.
This is fucking insane. Did you read it? It is fucking insane. Jonathan Capra of Mount Pleasant, New York writes, to do this trick, you need both Altered Beast and Space Harrier 2, like the cartridges.
What does that even mean? First of all, stop right there.
Yeah. It means you have to have both cartridges to even begin this process that he's about to lay out for us. So, you first put Altered Beast in your Genesis, and then when the pictures of all the statues appear on the screen, you just pull your Altered Beast cartridge out with the power still on. So, what kid is ever going to do that? Again, we had the whole discussion earlier about system preservation. They tell you not to do that. You're not going to break your, how would you even begin to go down this road? But that's step one. The screen will freeze. Yeah, duh. And then next, with the power still on, you put your Space Harrier 2 cartridge into the Genesis. So put that in without ever turning the power off. The screen will remain frozen, but the music will begin to play again at different speeds and out of tempo. I don't know if it means the Space Harrier or the Ultra Beast music there. I guess it doesn't matter. But some music will start playing. You keep the power on, and then you hit reset on the console. The Sega logo will appear, followed by the Space Harrier 2 title screen. And then you proceed as you normally would, but instead of 4 lives appearing, it fills up with 99 lives, and you play the game normally. It may take a couple of times to make this trick work, he qualifies this with. So Jonathan gives us that in the letter he writes in, and then there is a big orange box in this same tip box that is an editor's note that reads, warning, this trick and any others that involve inserting or removing games while the power is on can seriously damage your Genesis, TurboGrafx 16, Sega Master System, or NES. Perform them at your own risk. So they are qualifying this tip with that, which is nice and smart of them. But how in the absolute fuck do you even begin to discover this process? And furthermore, how do you conduct well-documented enough experimentation to arrive at a certainty you're willing to publish amongst a community of peers? Like, what in the fuck got this kid to a place where he had this to share and was able to do it in a well-communicated way like this? That's a full explanation of the flowchart.
Well, welcome to another episode of Jay's Rationalization Section. This could have only come about by most likely came about by Mr. Jonathan here being the raging animal who rips his takes his cartridges out with no regard and just sticks to the next one. That's his normal operating. And he just doesn't deviate from that. And he clearly hasn't screwed his console up yet. And he discovered this weird hack and was like, check me out, I'm going to send this in. And I bet if you contacted him, he ended up breaking his system at some point. That's the only way that this could have come about. Otherwise, who does this? No one is doing this.
It's such a juxtaposition of personality types to both be that rage and chaos fueled, but also collected enough to perceive this change in his chaos, document it, and then repeat it is such a weird mashup of human personality traits that, I don't know what does that human being grow up to be? Just a Hitler or something. You gotta, you have to be. There has to be so much insanity in there to get you through the flowchart, but so much calculated fucking, I don't know.
I don't know, Josh. You give him too much credit. I was just thinking more simplistic, like, you know, this is not a Nintendo where you have the little flap that covers it. This is like somebody was given a Genesis, their parents didn't give a shit.
Stop right there.
Just kind of like
this animal did not put the flap down on his NES when he put games in. Get out of here. Get out of here. He
never had one. He never had a Nintendo. Is what I'm saying. The person didn't learn. This is their first console, and they're like, "Sweet, stick a game in, power on." But when they went to Switch, like being the wild animal they are to the video game kingdom, and having no one to guide them out there in 1990, they just pulled it out. Next game, and they just hit reset. That was their normal thing. I'm just giving it that simplistic explanation because there's no logical way in my mind that any other person would have arrived.
Yeah, I guess, man. But again, but you know, say
anybody else who did this broke their console and learned their lesson. They didn't have this two combination of game together.
Yeah. There's just so much. There's just so many random unachievable variables in there that how did he get there?
There's millions of people in this world. Somebody had to be the one.
Yeah. There's a parallel universe where every reality exists. It's insane. It's just crazy. It's so crazy to me. It's like I got into this. I've been watching this. There's a show on Netflix, a documentary called Our Universe or something, narrated by Morgan Freeman. So who's not going to watch that, of course. So I watched that, and it's just like a 6-episode thing about, it does this thing where there's a micro storyline of like each episode they follow in most cases a mother and babies and talk about kind of the micro process of life, and then also this pulled out macro universe wide perspective of the birth, formation, and aging of the universe, and how those two things are intertwined and intersect, and fascinating. Like I said, Morgan Freeman, he's on it, so it's smart, and it's fucking really, really good. But watching it, dude, is like, it's kind of overwhelming. It's like, it's such a good and deep portrayal of, how, again, kind of like my whole Outer Wilds perspective of like this insignificance of an individual life in this ecosystem, the universe, I mean, not the Earth. Like, it's overwhelming to think about how little we'll ever know and how just meaningless we have to be. It's impossible for us not to be completely meaningless in that scope, you know what I mean? So like watching it is like, it's kind of a little bit of an anxiety attack. It's just like the idea that like all this is going on, and like, I don't know how much of it. I need to do research on how much of it, because these, it's 22. I'm not even able to keep up. I'm fascinated by it, and I want to be, and like I try to stay abreast with scientific discoveries from a astrophysics perspective. And see there's so much stuff that we're discovering on a daily basis, and the cameras and probes are getting so advanced that like the shit is just an onslaught now that it's hard to keep up with. There's so much more we know that it could all be 100% factual stuff that they're able to derive from like truly well conducted scientific processes, and it's not speculation as far as what they're talking about and showing in this documentary. So like I want to think that it's all absolute factual research based stuff they're showing me, but I don't know for sure, as far as just like the portrayal of these black holes and different far off universes and individual planets in different galaxies. Like they're showing like these really micro things that I'm kind of a little bit floored that we actually truly have knowledge about to the extent they're portraying it, So again, I'm not entirely sure, but if it is, it's overwhelming to think that we have that capability now to know the things that they're telling me are facts, but still we'll never know the 99.9999999% in our entire lifetime that we're not going to know. It's just like it's an overwhelming anxiety attack to watch shit like that and see how much we do know and how crazy it all is, but how much we're never going to know is a really, really overwhelming feeling, And like that kind of jars that same feeling to me, like that the idea that can happen. that this flowchart of shit can happen, and fuck. It's fucking absolutely crazy as fuck to me, Yeah.
Like you said, it's like multiverse. And the multiverse theory, like somebody out there had that combination of different variables happen in their life.
Yeah, impossible. I don't believe you. I know. Show me the numbers. I need to know more. Yeah, absolutely nuts. They have the Firewater cheese for the Fly Boss in Stage 5 of Ghouls and Ghosts on Genesis in here too. And if I recall correctly, I did not have much trouble with that boss, but I think you did, yeah? That second to last boss before the final, you struggle with that hornet wasp thing, right?
I think I struggled a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I struggled a little bit, yeah.
Either way, would have been nice to... We're always a day late and $1 short on getting these
right? These always come
classified.
Later,
Yeah. I mean, it's part of it's because of the way we do it, and we want it that way, that we're trying a little bit to correlate some of the game, or a lot of the games, with as they're hitting, We don't do a ton... We do a little bit. We don't do as much of the, it popped up in classified information, but came out a year and a half ago. Now we're going to do it, Some grimy-ass kid scam ads are peppered in here, too. And some of these we've seen, but another we have not. This one is called Game Watch Newsletter. And this company is based in Omaha, Nebraska. And what they got going on here really grinds my gears. It's a newsletter. And it's described as a unique news source that pulls no punches and gives the latest gossip and news that cannot be found anywhere else. And then they give some bullet points. Learn how to buy new games before official release, below retail, and even wholesale prices in some cases. You can also find out about overseas sources for games in the Orient and elsewhere, and the fucking Orient, for Christ's sake.
Where is this place you speak of?
Yeah, what the fuck are you talking about? So they also have, see how people are paying as little as $2 to $4 per game. Okay. And then they list a few games. Games like Tetris 2, Super Mario Invisible Fancy, Star Soldier, Devil World, Goonies, Ninja Adventure, and many more. So just like... Do I even need to explain that? How it's just all over the place. It's like Tetris 2, that doesn't exist, but it is Tetris. Super Mario Invisible Fancy, that doesn't exist, but it is Super Mario. We know what that is. Then these are really stock words: Star Soldier, Devil World, Ninja Adventure. Get the fuck out of here. And then Goonies, also like that's just a game, that we have. So it's just I don't know. It's How did they pick that? How did they pick that list of games is a really interesting thought experiment. So the reason this pisses me off is, so instead of your usual mail us money ordeal, where it's just a cutout thing, you send it with cash, which is funny that was ever a thing, but that's how you get money out of kids, I guess. And that's still offered, don't get me wrong, you can do that, but they are offering a method of payment where you call a 1-900 number that is a flat fee. There's one 1-900 number that's $16.50 flat per call, and you get a 2-year subscription to the bi-monthly newsletter and a VHS tape with 45 minutes of footage showing the above games in action. So that's one thing you can do. And they also have another 1-900 number that you can call where you just get the subscription without the tape for a $5 flat call. So you just get the newsletter, basically. And this is a really clever way of leeching money out of kids that would likely struggle with the money and envelope stamp system. I'll give them that. That's a good idea to extort and manipulate money out of children, but it's still fucked up. Yeah.
I can't stop laughing. Like I just like, is it that they're trying to make it seem like this is new games to be released? Like, I know it says before official release, but like when I see
that whole part of it,
Super Mario Invisible Fancy, that to me that just reads scam. Like, you meant to say fantasy, you said invisible fancy. What does that even mean? Yeah. Like, what? I mean, like I just can't stop laughing about it.
I actually believe. I mean, it's kind of an interesting.
Like, this is BS to me.
It's wrapped in a horrible manipulative wrapper here, but the adult that engages this, that knows what they're doing and has their own money, it's actually a very interesting look into what is probably a legitimate what has now become common knowledge, or commonplace rather, of like this homebrew hack community outside of the licensed infrastructure of NES or video gaming at the time. It's probably like that shit probably does exist. It's probably janky, especially at this time before,
right.
everyone was obviously much more savvy than as they would be now. But like that shit probably exists. It's probably crazy as fuck, and to a kid it would have blown their fucking mind. Like I believe that all those things probably exist somewhere. Their ability, and maybe even, again, to even have the knowledge of it or even try to sell a look at it, probably demonstrates some level of actual access to that stuff. To even be able to come up with the words and put them in the sequence, I presume they have some exposure to these things, So it's not totally grimy in concept. Again, they're taking that semi-cool thing and they're using it to extort money out of children. That's horrible.
Right.
But I like I said, if this if you find it as an adult, it probably would have been very cool. And if they actually sent one of these, the thing is, like, I tried very hard to find one of these newsletters or something on the Internet Archive or anywhere else on the internet, and I did not. So, oh my God, Lord Disciples, if you know of where these exist, have access to them, have any of your own, and by all means, please send them to us. I would love to see them. But I couldn't find any, so it makes me wonder whether these cunts actually ever even sent any out. And obviously that's horrible too. If they actually did not do and deliver, there's no way it lasted 2 years. There's just no way. So I know there's no way they fulfilled the full subscriptions of any of these. I believe they really had the tapes. Oh God, I don't think I looked for the tape actually. I bet the tapes tend to be out there. I'll have to look for the fuck it. All the fucking returns for this on YouTube are like mostly sports shit. There's definitely nothing in here from them. So yeah, I question whether any of it existed. I guess because everything is on the internet, bro. Everything is on the internet.
Yeah, this is
terrible. Oh, so yeah, that one really grinded my gears. Anyways, Ask the Pros is next. And did you jam the chains with shurikens in your final boss battle against Neo Zed in Shinobi, bro?
no.
I'm asking you. This is what you need to do to keep your girl alive and get the good ending in the game. And
I did not.
We played this game. I'm sure we looked at stuff about it too. And I don't remember. I think we were just kind of like, I'm not sure how you do it. It's just got to be an amount of time or something that you get. Because remember, I do remember that being a thing that the girl dies if you don't get the good ending. I remember knowing about I didn't finish that game. You did. But I remember knowing about the different endings. But I don't think we apparently had the actual knowledge of how you get the good ending, at least not factually. So, because I don't remember. I would remember this. So, like, what you actually have to do is it tells you every 3 seconds. While battling the final boss, you have to turn towards the chain on screen left and shoot it with a shuriken to keep the chains jammed so, I don't know, the ceiling or whatever doesn't fall on her, Yeah. So that seems like I said again, I didn't have that boss battle, but that seems like a really stressful interval to have a side task.
I definitely did not know about that because I remember hitting those chains, but that wasn't my focus. Like I saved I remember, and I just pulled up my playthrough. The Lonely Warrior finally saved the day and defeated baddies and heroes alike. But alas, he did not save the girl in time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I didn't know that was part of the task.
Right? Yeah, was it not?
Usually you save the girl by beating the bad guy.
Right, yeah. Not in this case. Not Genesis. Genesis hard. Phantasy Star 2 is also in here, and someone's stuck on some shit that's answered in the hint book that comes with the game. Like someone bitching, basically. Like it's just another testament to the stupidity of children, I think, probably. And from there, we move on to short pro shots. And on the NES front, we have Shitty Acclaim's Shitty Total Recall and American Sammy's Ultimate Basketball. American Video Entertainment, and that sounds like a really legit company, has a game called Puzzle. And Capcom is supposedly going to be bringing us California Raisins. And then there's some bullshit from Color Dreams I refuse to talk about because that company is terrible and everything they make is awful. There is a Sesame Street joint called Big Bird's Hide and Speak. and then some bullshit from Toho I also refuse to talk about. So Ultimate Basketball is new. This is released this month. Has some really cool pixel art on the dunk cut scenes, including the defender that you can, like, during the cut scene, you can affect the success of the shot. Yes. Both on offense and defense during those cut scenes. And it's basically kind of, in my view, taking the double dribble selling point to the next level, you know? So that's a really cool mechanic. I like that. The actual gameplay, though, is horrible. Absolutely fucking horrible. The refs are... Oh, this is just me. I don't know. You clearly played it, I know, because you were talking about it in a positive light already. Are the refs not ridiculously over-officious jerks, in the words of great Buffalo Bills Hall of Fame coach Mark Ledley? There was an insane number of fouls and violations called on both me and the CPU. It was not just me. In maybe 2 minutes I played of this. And it's like every 10 seconds there was like a traveling or a fucking foul or something that stopped gameplay, and I would have to do an inbound fucking play. Like, did you have that same problem when you played?
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing. Yeah. I will say, for me, talking about this game positively, it is more from the nostalgia and playing it as a kid. Like, yeah, pulling it up now, it's kind of like...
okay, I had never seen it before, so...
Yeah, I played it as a kid.
I can see how that would skew your fucking perspective.
My basketball that works
right
as a kid, yeah, good, you know, but picking it up now, it's like, nah, man.
Yeah. On top of the foul thing, it's just it is 5-on-5. And it's just the fucking total jumbled fuck mess, the actual gameplay. It's so, you can't even, I don't know. They just had no ability whatsoever to make a good basketball game in the NES. It's not possible.
I feel like I played every NES attempt at basketball that happened at that time. You know what I mean? Like, I just always had one. Like, it was always being rented. Like, all right, let me try this one. And people were always trying to emulate double dribble or do something a little differently and add little twists. And this one, like, so... You know, it was fun enough, but not the one I'm going to choose over other titles.
Not good, yeah. I mean, and that's, I mean, it's, I commend them for giving it the old college try, you know, but I totally understand how and why an NES game or an NES cartridge cannot do basketball right. It's just, there's just too many limitations visually and mechanically to pull off a very complicated game, you know, there's just too many. It's too finesse oriented, you know. There needs to be too much control over the finesse components of basketball for it to be fun, engaging, and well done. And the NES just can't do it, you know. No. I mean, honestly, I don't think you can do a good basketball game. And I liked the 16-bit ones. I had Bulls versus Blazers. I liked that, you know, the Lakers versus Celtics, Lakers versus Bulls, Bulls versus Blazers. I played all those. I liked them. They are horrible now. And the reason, I don't think you can do a good basketball game without pressure-sensitive controls. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You need to be, like, it's how hard you hit that button. Like, there needs to be some input into the shot control that goes beyond just
you got to be able to fake, to jab, step, to you got to be able to do finesse moves.
Right, exactly, yeah. So I think
otherwise, what are you doing? It's
right. Know. Yep. So puzzle is, I shit you not, it's just slide puzzles.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's like the thing they put in Final Fantasy is an Easter egg, and I understand they have pictures here, not just numbers for the tiles. But what in the fuck, dude? Like, I just, you know, they word it in there. They say, like, if you want like a really economically well-priced NES game, this is for you. Like, yeah, the only selling point is it's cheap as fuck because the game is the least fun thing you could do on an NES.
Like, I play those things like when I'm in the car,
right? Exactly.
You know, driving and I got nothing else to do or something. Like, not when I'm sitting down on my NES. Like, that's not really what we're using that for. Definitely not at $30, man. Or even after that. Like, come on.
Terrible. Yeah, wild. And yeah, so fiddly from a company. What was it again? American Video Entertainment. So California Raisins ended up being canceled and was never released, I read, because of perceivedly rapidly declining popularity of the Raisins around this time. That's a bummer. I love their Christmas special.
It makes sense. I mean, they were huge in ads and stuff. And like, I remember the jingle, but like, I don't know, man. They're just... I didn't like raisins. I didn't like eating them. I just like their jingle. They were cool enough.
Even the license, exactly. Even the licensing, it was Hardee's. Do you remember my dad drove truck, and I think he would eat at Hardee's when he was on the road or something, because he would bring me home Hardee's, or not Hardee's, but California Raisin action figures from Hardee's. And I remember having those as a kid.
Too,
yeah. I remember I had this bin of like it was just like random shit, and I kept those in there. It was not the same bin that like my legit action figures would have been in. These were all like bullshit limited
extra
toys.
Stuff.
Yeah. It was just in this big Tupperware heavy duty plastic fucking bin I remember keeping in my closet, and those went in there. But yeah, that, and then again, have you seen the Christmas special? Do you know what I'm talking about? The Christmas?
Yeah, I've seen it before.
Okay, yeah, that's my favorite Christmas special, I think, dude. That's really good. It's musical. They have probably even though they're the namesake on it, that's probably the weakest segment, the California Raisin song. They're doing the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Not as good as DMX's, but close. Yeah, but that's probably the weakest one. But some of the I think I've talked about before, the one with the bell one with the fly on the dickhead bell that the conductor ends up knocking off at the end to finally get him to participate. Right, like I love, that's my favorite segment in it for sure. There's some really good ones in there. And it's all claymation.
I can see like making a whole video game, like you're really committing. Like, do you really want somebody to spend like potentially $30-$40? Like that's a lot.
Not going to happen. Yeah. There are other ones, fucking Spot for 7-Up and shit. It's that's the same thing. It's just, they're literally gauged. Yeah. It's a different game every time, but they're essentially reskinning the same game with a different property. So if it's not going to be a popular property, it's not going to sell because the game's going to suck.
But you know what's odd to me, and maybe I'm the minority in this, but like that Yo Noid to me was such an amazing game. Like that was, it's from a freaking Domino's franchise. Yeah. You know what I mean? But like that game was so good. Like I don't care about Domino's is not my remotely anywhere near like my favorite pizza or even like the pizza I enjoy. But like that game was so fun. Like I did not eat Domino's at all as a kid. Like I eat it far more as an adult than a kid, just because it's nearby. But that game was so fun. It really was.
I don't think we've gotten to it yet. I'm not sure. I think you might not be alone in that. I think that might be one that is actually known as being a decent cash grab licensing deal. Yeah. But I can't remember for sure if we've seen it or not. I don't remember. But
so I guess if you're comparing things like that, you would think, okay, California Raisins, that should work.
But it's Capcom though. Capcom doesn't really make bad games, so it probably would have been all right. But we'll never know, unless honestly, just because it was canceled, you never know. Shit just drops sometimes out of nowhere. Maybe there's a prototype out there somewhere.
Right.
If you know about that, also write in and let us know. Next issue dials up a tease of a Halloween special issue, given it's October, of course, and they talk about Castlevania 3. That's hot. That's a game I'm definitely going to make sure we play. And Frankenstein, Psychosis, Werewolf, Drax Night Out, and that last one sounds pretty fun. Drax Night Out. That sounds wild. And then they also talk about Wizardry and Dragon's Lair on NES 2. Get Jab on the horn about that, and he'll be happy to talk your fucking ear off about it.
Heatwave song from Super Monaco GP on the Sega Genesis, bringing us into the nominations.
It's an acid trip in chiptune format. That song.
It's
very
fun.
good. Yeah, definitely. What did we play last? Little Nemo.
Little Nemo.
I think I went first for that.
Probably so.
Yeah.
All right. So I had a tough time this time. And it's because
of too much, right? Not too.
What's
little.
That?
Too much, not too little, right?
Yeah, there's so many things though. Like this is not, in my opinion, an issue in which there's like 5 hot games that I just can't wait to play. It's more like there's a lot of games that I could play, but nothing that's really just jumping out off the page at it for me. So, with that in mind, first is Dragon Spirit. Second Truxton. We're gonna keep bringing it up and banging that horn.
Okay.
Third, and I can't believe I'm saying this, eSWAT.
Okay.
Hoping that there's more on the bone after what I saw. But like I said, there's a lot of games. There's a lot of games on this list that I could play that come out of this issue. I could be sold on a lot, honestly. Like, there's a lot that are just like, meh, you know, they meet the rental standard probably.
Okay. We have overlap in eSWAT. I don't think there's any drama in that, given my reaction to it. I also have Strider, of course, because I think it's fucking maybe the best game, maybe the best game on the system to date up to this point. Yeah.
What?
Yep. And then my last one is Ninja Gaiden 2 on the NES. It appeared as an ad in the Tecmo ad. So yeah, we haven't gotten to that yet, and I think it's the idea, again, that we haven't played either of the Ninja Gaidens yet for a game episode is kind of crazy. It's a little bit crazy if we're calling ourselves legitimate U.S. video game console historians here. I think the idea that we have not done any Ninja Gaiden all the way through September 1990, a little crazy. But it's a lot of games, and I understand that, you know, we can't get to all of them. And so there's that, and then eSWAT and Strider. And yeah, I mean, dude, I from a fun perspective, I think I want to play Strider. I think I want to play Strider for sure.
What?
I know I did this. I've only done this once, and had you refute it once we got into the process. So I would like a little bit of giving me the benefit of the doubt here, that I have not led you into these things where you were blind and had it go awry, other than Captain Skyhawk. And even Captain Skyhawk, I think I qualified. I wasn't sure. I thought it was interesting and very different. I think I qualified it. I couched it a little bit. I wasn't, you know, like, oh my God, this is like Strider. I'm like, oh my God. Like, there's just no way to me that it can go bad. To me, it's that good. I think there's enough public sentiment also at this game to support. And I think if you want to spend 10 seconds Googling it, I think you'll see the same thing. So I think that also is a good sign that we're not going to go wrong there. And yeah, I just think it's going to be the most fun thing for sure. I think the most responsible thing is Ninja Gaiden 2. I want to play eSWAT 2. I think that, again, I think there's more opportunity for that to go awry, though. I think, because we didn't try it with the suit, so I don't know how much better that makes it. It was, even if I'm talking about it as a positive, it was a little bit of that stiff arcade shit that I'm not entirely sure is going to be great for a full playthrough. But there were a lot of signs that it was good for sure. And if you wanted to go with that because there is overlap, I don't think I would argue with you too much. Other than I think we're leaving Strider off, and it's kind of criminal.
So let me respond to your Strider remarks, good sir. It throws me off, and I'm just completely I can't believe we're talking about Strider.
Good. I'm just gonna type Strider Genesis.
But hear me out, Josh. Hear me out. I can't believe we're talking about Strider. But one thing this podcast has made me a lot more interested in is every time we talk about a game and there is a remake or a remaster done later, I'm very interested in playing that. Even if I didn't absolutely love the game. So like Alex Kidd we played, and then I went and wanted to check out like the new latest remaster one. Yeah. I do that.
You
regularly.
Mean Wonder Boy, but it's perfectly okay that you're
exactly. You know, the same IP that we constantly misspeak about all the time. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's just been so many of those, and every time we do a game, I'm always looking at, is there an updated version? I want to check it out and see what has been done now to it. You know, that just fascinates me so much. Maybe it's just, you know, working in the industry, but I have noticed in the past that there is updated Strider out there that I could go download right now on the Xbox. Like there's a new remade Strider, and I've been fascinated because it was so damn terrible on the NES. I'm like of all the games you played, why in the hell are there Striders and, as you said, like more sentiment around this game that was absolutely terrible from play experience? And so I've seen that, and I've been curious about that. And because of that, and because of you say like validating, like, okay, there's a reason. Maybe we just played the absolutely worst port that we could play.
Right.
Most limited version we could play. Like we played the Atari Double Dragon, not like the legit arcade Double Dragon. So I would actually be curious to, because of what you said from that standpoint. Like, okay, this is essentially a much better one, which would actually give me a reason, if it is as good as you say, to go check out the remastered ones that I can just go download right now in the store that I was curious about anyway.
I got you leaning on the ropes. Let me fucking knock you the fuck out here. So I typed in the keywords into Google. I typed in were Strider, Genesis, Critical Response. 4 keywords. First one's some wiki bullshit. Second return on Google is a Nintendo Life review of the game. Let me read the conclusion. With its gorgeous visuals, excellent music, and surprisingly stern challenge, Strider's magic hasn't diminished one jot. I've never heard that term before, or that usage of that term anyways.
Okay, got it.
Despite the passage of over 2 decades. So he's looking at it from a modern perspective too. That's interesting to note. And it's a feast for the eyes, and the responsive and acrobatic main character controls with amazing grace and fluidity. Only the unofficial sequel, Cannon Dancer, comes anywhere close to attaining the same balletic brilliance, another word I've never heard before, balletic. Although many will argue that the availability of the arcade version on collections for the PS2 and PSP renders the port redundant, this is one of those rare cases where a conversion actually adds something to the original. Sega's talent is evident from the moment the title screen appears, and this effortlessly ranks as one of the Japanese veterans' finest conversion jobs. Ironic when you consider that it's another company's game. And they give it a 9 out of 10 excellent score on here. So, when you get up off the mat, Jay, fire up Strider.
Fine. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I think we're giving ourselves a nice holiday gift here in our 2022 conclusion episode. So, okay, that kind of sounds like it settles it. I'm glad we could arrive at a mutually amicable solution to this game episode. So, that will be the next episode, our first episode of 2020. Well, maybe not. It sounds like we're going to side quest again first, but it'll be our first main quest episode of 2023, and then we are finally back to some Sega action with issue 2 of Visions, and that has me pretty jazzed up. You can subscribe to the pod on the platform provided whatever dumbass company that serves up your pottery. Please rate and leave positive shit for the pod on whatever platform you listen if you enjoy our nonsense. The website is nyehentertainment.com/ISOH pod. You can email us directly at isohpodcast@gmail.com. Follow the pod and banter with us on the Facebook page, the Instagram, and or the subreddit, and talk shit to us about our gameplay videos on the YouTube. Links to all those will be in the show notes. We don't have a Patreon, but if you'd like giving money to things podcasters tell you to, and would like to do so at our direction, the Able Gamers Foundation creates custom gaming rigs for gamers with disabilities, and that is cool as fuck. AbleGamers.org is where you can find them. T-shirts are on the website. They're dope, and proceeds on those after pod expenses go to the Able Gamers Foundation. I'm rocking one now. Jay has some bullshit for amateur football on, so he doesn't have one, but whatever. Jay, what are your socials?
Gentleman JB without the second E is my gamer tag. That's where you can find me on Xbox, Switch, everywhere.
I am on Twitter at Josh Folan. I am on Instagram at My Shift Key is Broke, as well as my Oculus gaming tag if you want to get rocked in Demio, or Demio will be collaborating, but if you want to get rocked in Walkabout, or maybe Iron Man if there's a multiplayer, I don't know. Whatever, you can find me on there. Happy fucking holidays. Thanks for listening in 2022. We appreciate it. Can't believe you people like our shit enough to interact with us and listen to any of this. So, thank you. Happy holidays. Okay, bye.